We're getting inside the tornado right now, right here. We are in the tornado.
In the tornado.
In the
right
tornado.
Here.
We deploy.
Power lines are going down. Stop it right here. Stop right here.
We gotta back up.
Back it up. Back it up.
Oh, roof's going. Roof's gone right now. Iowa, Hurricane Idala making landfall right now as a Category 3 storm, high intensity Cat 3. The roof of this building was just ripped off right behind me. So you can see power lines down right now as it makes landfall. Here we go, guys. Here it comes.
From a scientific standpoint, from a communication standpoint, this is a master class in meteorology. All the air is rushing, we're basically in a vacuum right now. All the air is rushing into this area. Can't the general disclaimer, obviously I'm very excited from a scientific standpoint, but I do, and we all are very well aware of the human impact of this. So even though it looks cool online, it looks cool to, oh, there's a bird. It looks cool to sort of see all this science in action. We do want folks to know that getting to this point was dangerous. The first out of the eye, I mean, look at all the damage just on this little stretch of highway.
Flooding farther to my south, but when you have that and an acute tornado risk in one of the biggest, most densely populated areas of the country at night, not a great recipe for travel. The good news though, it's Sunday, commute not quite as bad as it
Stop it right here. Stop right here.
We gotta back up!
Back it up. Back it up.
Oh, roof's going! Roof's gone right now! Iowa, Hurricane Idala making landfall right now as a Category 3 storm, high intensity Cat 3. The roof of this building was just ripped off right behind me. As you can see, power lines down right now as it makes landfall. Here we go, guys. Here it comes.
From a scientific standpoint, from a communication standpoint, this is a master class in meteorology. All the air is rushing in. We're basically in a vacuum right now. All the air is rushing into this area. Can't
The general disclaimer, obviously, I'm very excited from a scientific standpoint, but I do, and we all are very well aware of the human impact of this. So even though it looks cool online, it looks cool to, oh, there's a bird. It looks cool to sort of see all this science in action. We do want folks to know that getting to this point was dangerous. The first out of the eye, I mean, look at all the damage just on this little stretch of highway.
flooding farther to my south, but when you have that and an acute tornado risk in one of the biggest, most densely populated areas of the country at night, not a great recipe for travel. The good news, though, it's Sunday, commute not quite as bad as it
Stop right here.
Hey there, good evening everyone. It is good to see you. I'm meteorologist Matt Cappucci alongside Erica Lopez. Erica, I'm going to turn and hope the webcam doesn't change direction, but hello Erica. She's over there. By over there, I
We're
mean,
waving
you're
to
in
each other.
Texas currently, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so you're in Dallas, Texas. I'm in Washington, D.C. All eyes right now are in the southern plains where active severe weather is lighting up the radar. Multiple severe thunderstorm warnings. We had one or two tornado warnings in Iowa earlier on. The good news, so far, we haven't seen any supercells form ahead of the main line of storms we've been tracking. But, Erica, we talk all the time about second season. It seems like severe weather peaks in the spring months, kind of wanes a little bit during the summertime, because you don't really have that temperature clash. The seasons aren't battling it out in the summertime, but then suddenly it starts creeping back in during October and especially November into December. And even this weekend, we're forecasting more severe weather. So, so far things have stayed mostly well behaved. That might not be the case later on tonight. So we're going to stay with folks as these storms march through the Oklahoma City and Kansas City areas. We'll dive into radar right now, and Jack and Mauricio, if we want to take that real quick, let's switch on over to radar. And oh, Erica, you're here too. Hi, Erica.
Yeah, I'm
Good to
here
see you.
for, joining your party here. But
You're
yeah,
here for the long haul.
yeah. And, this is our first, I think, severe risk in quite a bit of time. So maybe a lot of people tuning in because they want to know what's going on. It's been it's been a while. We've been tracking hurricanes for the last several weeks. Now we're switching into severe weather mode once again.
And Erica, we have some new wind reports actually coming in. There have been 3 gusts so far to 70 miles per hour, one in far southwest Oklahoma, gusted to 74 miles per hour, one near Elk City and Sayre, gusted to 70, and then one in northwest Oklahoma, I believe near Woodward and Fort Supply, gusted to 76 miles per hour. So if we take MyRadar full screen, we'll be able to see real quick kind of what's going on. And we'll look at the cell right now that is forming near Enid. So if we take the MyRadar full, the one that I'm using, awesome. Yeah, if we take that full, we see, things have kind of lined up right now. We're not seeing much development ahead of the main line. If we're going to get any real self-contained supercells, rotating thunderstorms, it will be ahead of this main line of storms, and we're just not really seeing that right now. So that's kind of good news. We can have this whole event shape up 2 ways. We can either have one solid line of storms, like a snowplow in the atmosphere. That would mix down strong winds gusting 60, 70 plus miles per hour. We've seen gusts to 70 already. Or we could have a line and a few supercells ahead of it. To get supercells ahead of the main line, we would need a little bit more forcing, a little bit more oomph to get little pockets of air sprouting in like this area between Oklahoma City and Tulsa, up and down the Turner Turnpike. I'm just not seeing that right now. So folks along I-44, that's good news for you. If we are to get a supercell, it will be between, say, I-44 and near, I'd say, Eureka, Emporia, Wichita, up towards Kansas City. That's kind of the zone along which we could potentially see a supercell later today. But for now, we only have a couple severe thunderstorm warnings that are sort of cropping up along this squall line forming in northwestern Oklahoma. Enid, you're in the soup right now, probably getting winds 45, 50 miles per hour and a lot of rainfall. The severe element of that storm is up near Blackwell, Newkirk, a little bit north of Ponca City, so crossing over I-35 imminently. This is kind of bowing back a little bit too. You see that sort of curvature on the radar? That's marking winds gusting upwards of 60, perhaps close to 70 miles per hour near Deer Creek. And one thing you can just barely see here, y'all see that little line? It's actually crossing right over 35 right now. This little line ahead of the rest. So what we're doing right now is showing you velocity, the speed with which the winds are going and the direction at which they're traveling. And you can see those lighter pinks, that represents winds gusting upwards of 60 miles per hour. So there are some damaging gusts in there. But this little line is the outflow boundary, the leading edge of cool air exhaust exiting storms. Now, when I see an outflow boundary on radar, that to me says that there's a little bit more air exiting the storm than entering. So the air is kind of exiting the storm, sagging down, surging out. And if you have downward or outward moving air, you're not really going to get a tornado threat, which is why right now, these to me say damaging gusts, but I don't really see much in the way of any tornado threats imminently. In fact, it doesn't necessarily appear that we even have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for that part of the line of storms. There are warnings, however, farther south and west. We'll take a look at the North Doppler radar. And you can see, near Braun, for example, a little bit northwest of Blackwell, northeast of Deer Creek, there are some purples in there. So perhaps some nickel-size hail with those. If you want some bigger hail, west of Hennessy, Dover, a little bit west of Kingfisher, north of Watauga on I-81, Comus, south of Enid. It's this area right here that has that severe thunderstorm warning. We're talking about zones near, for example, let me pull that up on my phone real quick. We're talking about parts of Kingfisher, Blaine, Garfield, and major counties. That's for this segment within the broader line of storms. The storms are moving northeast at 25 to 35 miles per hour. And in there, you could have some damaging gusts to 60 miles per hour and perhaps some hail to about quarter size. If we take a look at the winds, you see decent rains, probably gusts 50, 55 miles an hour, maybe close to 60. The storms are producing a decent amount of rainfall. In fact, in a single hour's time, we're likely seeing rainfall on the order of half an inch to an inch, maybe up to 2 inches in spots. The purple over here indicates some places near like Ringwood, a little bit west of Lahoma, east of Clio Springs, and southeast of Fairview have likely seen pockets of 1.5 inches to 2 inches. So ponding of the roadways, not a big flash flood threat. And realistically, we need the rainfall out here. We have been parched over the past month in terms of rainfall, with next to nothing going on. One really neat thing we can do, take a look at something called spectrum width. It looks like a bucket of spilled paint. Ignore the grays. Any greens and reds, that kind of shows you where the wind shift line is. The leading edge of the cold front, the leading edge of the dry line, the leading edge of the air mass change, that is actually the impetus for these storms. And so when we see that, we're able to see where the leading edge of the strong to locally damaging winds is. Storm tops right now are about 40, 45,000 feet. If they were a little bit taller, then we'd have more of a tornado threat, but there's kind of a slowdown at the mid-levels in terms of how quickly air can rise. One thing that we've noticed is that there's been a little bit of warm air about a mile above the ground. Not quite a cap, but enough to sort of slow down updrafts, to temper how quickly air can rise. And subsequently, we haven't really seen quite as robust of updrafts as we would get potentially. Sorry about that. Come again? No worries. If y'all at home hear Jack, that is a voice of God, but Jack really is a technological God. Jack and Mauricio have been running this stream, have been handling all the hurricane streams we've been doing. And we actually recently had a studio overhaul too. So Jack Mauricio installed a plethora of new equipment that's allowing us to bring you this live stream reliably with fail-free technology. So kudos to both of them for the hard work they're doing behind the scenes. And they're the folks that you don't necessarily see, but they make all the difference in the world. One thing I'm noticing, there's this cell right over I-40 right now, west of El Reno, west of Bridgeport, near Hydro, that's looking a little better right now. And by better, I mean it's kind of, it's on its own. It is what we call tail end Charlie. It has a chance of sort of tightening up a little bit more, developing supercell characteristics. Indeed, we see some broad rotation, lighter blue against darker green that shows you a subtle change of wind over short distance. That said, it is self-contained. It's not super tall right now. It's about 40,000 feet, which is decent, but I'm just not seeing any lone discrete supercells, any really, self-contained organized rotating storms yet. They're trying, but every time a storm tries to get going, like this one here near Hydro, this one near Watauga, both of these could be supercells, but every time they try to get going, they're sort of undercut by the leading edge of the front. And so every time that happens, it kind of kills off their life. Even down here, like we have a couple more, but these ones down here near like Katiba, Mountain View, Carnegie, west of Eakly, south of Clinton, near Hobart, a little bit west of Snyder, Tipton, Manitou, Frederick. Been there many times. I love it down there. 62 is a beautiful highway for the folks who haven't driven it yet. Been down there many times. Back on May 23rd, I chased a tornado near Gould, East Duke, El Dorado, or I guess El Dorado, right south of 62, but it got a beautiful tornado. But in any case, couple light rain showers. These are nothing yet. These are just kind of appetizers. But what it tells me is that there are more storms trying to form, and they're sort of cellular convection, meaning they're individual discrete updrafts. If they can get going, they could become supercells. And on a day like today, the parameter space, the ingredients in the atmosphere are decently impressive. The ingredients, and we can put me up too if we want to double box it. The ingredients are strong in terms of if something can fire, then it can take full advantage of the chaos of the atmosphere. We have very strong changing winds with height, and that would mean to me that, you know, we could get a supercell spinning and producing a tornado. But the issue is right now, nothing's discrete, nothing's isolated, nothing's ahead of that main line. So, you know, once again, Erica, the parameter space is high today. The ingredients are there. Truth be told, I don't think we're going to see much in the way of discrete convection, much in the way of supercell activity ahead of that main line. We haven't seen it yet. The clock is kind of ticking. We have a couple hours before things sort of really line out. I just think, you know, oftentimes we see these low probability, high impact events. It's unlikely we'll get any supercells ahead of the main line, but, you know, Eric, as we discussed, if one does form, it could be nasty, which is why we're kind of staying with folks, and we'll ride these through Oklahoma City.
Yeah, so, you know, we've been kind of watching this over the last several hours and kind of waiting to stream. We've saw maybe one tornado warning, I think, earlier in Iowa. Now, thankfully, there hasn't been any tornado warnings, but most of the activity has stayed in western Oklahoma. But like Cappucci was saying, this is just one of those things that, you know, we're going to be here with y'all. If there is a tornado warning issued, we will let you know first. But it's something that we're going to keep a very close eye on. But I am seeing in the comments maybe some people wondering what's going to happen later on. Although right now, you know, most of the activities in western Oklahoma. Lauren is asking for Crawford County, Pittsburgh in Kansas, and someone in Kay County in northern Oklahoma is wondering what's going to happen there over the next several hours. So we can show y'all here. Let's Jack do, or Mauricio, who's out there in the background. We can do a future radar here and kind of walk you through the next several hours. This future radar, I think it's a little bit behind. So about an hour or two behind, but we can show that here on the screen and kind of show the forecast, because maybe you're watching us from Dallas or, you know, Oklahoma City South. The activity will be more so in the evening hours. I'm in Dallas right now. And, you know, my family's been asking me what's going on with the severe weather threat. I got the alert on my phone earlier today from the forecast that Cappucci did earlier. So a lot of questions on what's going to happen there. Yeah, there you go. You've seen him already today, but if you live in Dallas, but we can walk you through the forecast here over the next several hours. And like I was saying, I think it's a little bit behind. So I would say maybe the line of storms and comparing it to what it looks like on radar, I think you could see it there on the bottom of your screen here. Just have a lot of tabs up. So yeah. So here in the next hour or so, I think most of the activity will start to push to the east. And then really in Oklahoma City, I think it could be as early as 8 o'clock Central Time. I'm in Central Time, so it's almost 5:30 Central Time right now. And so over the next several hours, I think that's when the activity will start to ramp up. Could be a line of storms. I think really the main threat, it's going to be those damaging winds. I'm not sure. I haven't checked yet, Cappucci, but I don't know if you've seen anything in the way of hail reports from any of these thunderstorms, but
yeah, very minimally. And one thing too, we mentioned Kay County a moment ago. The storms have passed through Kay County, or are passing through right now. Ponca City about to see winds gusting about 55, 60 miles per hour. But the good news for our friends in Kay County, it looks like things are not going to linger all that long. And I do think that once this line pushes through Kay County, the tornado threat should be, for the most part, over. So good news there, but no hail reports thus far.
Yeah, and that's interesting. You know, one of the main areas too that was going to see the large hail risk is what's happening right now in western Oklahoma. So pretty interesting event. You know, it's just one of those events that we have to keep watching. But for anyone who's watching in North Texas, let's say, I think really the severe threat will be in the overnight. It might wake you up. I might wake up in the middle of the night just because of the storms that are going to be passing through. So especially for those commuters in North Texas, that's just something to keep in mind. You have an early flight, just keep checking that. We may see some delays there, but overall in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro and North Texas, even Central Texas, I think the threat will be, I would say, between 4 and 6 in the morning.
You know, here's a cool little tidbit. It has very little to do with the ongoing situation. I just realized the water I'm drinking is from Jiffy Trip. I got that back on May 30th when I was a little bit north of Midland, Odessa, Texas. So apparently I've been carrying around this water bottle. I found it in my truck the other day, so I just drank it. But I've been driving around with this water bottle for something like 5-6 months. This was the last day I storm chased this year. So I was in...
I hope the water is you refilled the bottle. I hope it's not water that's been sitting in your car.
I mean, water doesn't expire, right? Then again, I know that you and Jack.
Maybe something we should.
Maybe that's why my hair is falling out. We've all seen the. Oh, thank you to the Damn it. This Zoom 360 camera keeps moving. So anyway, but yeah,
I
I
guess
know
as
you and
long as
Jack
you're
came up.
hydrated, that's all that matters.
Is it though? I know you and Jack came up and y'all threw away my apple juice because apparently apple juice can expire, but living all fancy schmancy. But yeah, so for folks at home tonight, stock up on the apple juice, chill, have a nice beverage or whatever y'all are doing, and ride out these storms. I mean, these storms right now are, for the most part, pretty well behaved. Like Eric and I have said, there's a limiting factor, and actually there are several limiting factors. I think two right now that are mitigating the tornado threat somewhat. Number one, warm mid-levels. If it's a little bit too warm at 850 millibars, so what, like a mile above the ground, we're sort of capping, we're cutting back air that wants to rise from the surface and limiting how quickly that air can rise. And you need very quickly rising air at the low levels of the atmosphere to really get a good tornado threat. And we're just not really seeing that right now. And I think that's why we haven't seen much at all in the way of development ahead of the main line of storms. In fact, if we can take real quick in the middle, I guess my version of MyRadar, we'll be able to see, I'm going to play this, put it in motion. You'll be able to see we have a squall line, but we don't really have anything behind the squall line. So, we'll put that in the middle, and Jack Mauricio doing a great job. Erica, I'm not seeing much in the way of prefrontal or sort of pre-squall line development. And so that's a great thing for folks thus far in Oklahoma and Kansas. Even Kansas, the fact that we have not a single severe thunderstorm in the entire state of Kansas is great news. So often you can have all the ingredients, but if things don't come together correctly, you're not going to take advantage of them. The other limiting factor too, I think, is that the forcing, the oomph to kick up storms is just perhaps an hour or two behind some of the models we're prognosticating. And because of that, there's just a little bit less oomph to get storms forming ahead of the main line. And so we thus far haven't really been able to compensate for the warm air at the mid-levels, push pockets of air upwards ahead of the line and get those supercells. So, thus far, everything's well behaved. There is one caveat to that, though, and that's right now that in southwest Oklahoma, and let me sort of shift the radar just a little bit. If we look near and southwest of Oklahoma City, we are seeing more in the way of cellular convection. And, Erica, if you want to weigh in on this too, I'm curious. It looks to me like we've seen a little bit more development in the past even 10, 20 minutes there, in the direction of, for example, Hobart, Snyder, Tipton, Manitou, Frederick, Cappucci, a little bit west of I-44, west of the H.E. Bailey Turnpike. It looks to me like we're seeing more of those pockets rising. That said, it's tough to see if that's ahead of the front or if it's a continuation of that squall line. My guess would be one or two of these could take on supercell characteristics. So I think it's important that we stay with these cells as they progress through the Oklahoma City metro area. I'm not overly sold on them doing anything too problematic yet, because even in northern Oklahoma, everything has lined up and a few of the storms are outflow dominant, meaning they're exhaling more than they're inhaling. So
yeah, it seems like all these storms, they're just being ingested into the line of storm. So hopefully that will be the case. I know, if any of these develop, they will go into that populated area of Oklahoma City. So hopefully not. But either way, heavy rainfall, lightning, possible here over the next hour or two in Oklahoma City.
Here's a random question. So you were at OU for what, 4 years?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Did you ever go to the antenna farm in I think it's Bethany, War Acres, north side of town?
Antenna farm? I don't think so.
So okay, it sounds crazy, but for the folks at home watching, there's a big area on the north side of town, a little bit west of 35, near that. What's the amusement park up there? Gosh, anyway, there's.
I can't. Frontier City. Frontier City.
Yes, yeah, okay, Frontier City.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit northwest of Frontier City, there's what we call the antenna farm, and they have, I think, 9 really tall, 1,000-1,500-foot tall antennas. And I've seen upward lightning there before. It's so cool. Anytime we have MCSs or mesoscale convective systems, so these big thunderstorm complexes, on the backside, we tend to have in the stratiform region, so that light rainy region behind an initial squall line, you oftentimes have a broad diffuse positive charge on the underside of the cloud. And usually that's not enough to really spark much lightning. But so often you can focus that charge with really tall man-made objects like antennas. And so usually when you have a really good squall line come through, on the backside, you'll get upward lightning to shoot off the antennas. And it's so cool. I've seen that a number of times before. There was one back in, I think it was 2018, back when I was young, my hairline wasn't receding, where I saw like three incredible upward shots of lightning just leap off those things. It was one of the most amazing displays I've ever seen. So my bucket list is to someday go back, obviously in my vehicle, of course. I'm petrified of lightning, but sit there and just watch upward lightning shoot off the antenna farm. And interestingly, and I won't yammer too much about it today, but thunder snow actually is oftentimes man-made too, with similar processes, but that's neither here nor there. I'll do a video on thunder snow at some point.
Yeah, the thing about the plains too, it's just so flat. You can see storms for miles away. So I know for chasers like you, it makes chasing a little bit more visual rather than, in the plain, in the deep south where it's a little bit harder to see storms. But I've chased quite a bit actually in Oklahoma back then. I'm hoping to do that with you this spring and seeing some storms. It's been a while for me. So hopefully I'll get to do that this year or next year.
What's the best thing you've seen chasing? Like the craziest? Obviously, you haven't.
I've seen a wall cloud. I've seen a wall
Nice.
cloud. Yeah, I think that's I've never seen a tornado. Surprisingly enough, I've lived in Oklahoma for 5 years and I never saw a tornado. So I'm hoping that changes for 2025 for me.
So I can give you your first tornado?
Yes, you're going to give it to me.
Yes, I look forward to it. That'll be fun. My goal is that, because you're a Brahms person, right?
Yes, I love Brahms.
I'm obsessed with Brahms. For folks who are not from Oklahoma or Kansas, Brahms, I think, is headquartered in, Tuttle, Oklahoma. It's right near Tuttle.
It's somewhere
right?
in Oklahoma, yeah.
Yeah, so Brahms is like a creamery, but also a line of stores that has they have like a little grocery store inside, but they also have an ice cream counter. They have some fried food. So I go there and get my chicken tenders, my fries for like $2.99, $3.99, and then I get an ice cream. And a single, it always messed me up. I call them scoops, but they call them dips. So you have to call it like a single dip of whatever. I'll get that single dip of cookie dough ice cream. It's so good. But my goal, you and I, lunch at Brahms, tornado by the mid-afternoon, espresso martini at night. Perfect day.
Perfect day in the spring. I can't wait.
Indeed. But obviously over open fields. We don't want the tornadoes
Yes,
impact anymore.
nowhere.
So,
Yes, nowhere. Like today, thankfully, we're not seeing anything
Yeah.
too crazy on radar. But
one thing
You
I'm
know.
seeing too, and this is good news, if we want to sort of zoom into this real quick, and it'll take a second. The radar sometimes likes to take a second to sort of catch up. It likes to build anticipation. So we see the cellular convection is beginning to fire a little bit southwest of Oklahoma City. I want to put on echo tops. Echo tops shows us the height of any updrafts, any storms, any clouds. And notice how we have a couple that are sort of beginning to perk up in green, but have settled back a little bit. Even, right here, west of Anadarko, east of Hobart, a little bit east of Highway 183 near Carnegie, it looks to me like the updrafts on the southern end of the squall line for now are struggling. It's like they go up, they kind of go, and then settle back down a little bit and try again and try again. And to me, that's a sign that we're still struggling to overcome warm air at the mid-levels. We're still struggling to sort of overcome some capping or some inhibition, a limiting factor. So we're watching that very closely. All told, though, up and down in Oklahoma, we are still seeing those storms, likely producing winds of 45 to 50-ish miles per hour, maybe a few gusts to 55 or 60, and then, of course, some hail to about $half size in the strongest storms. Oh, Erica, let's do some show and tell. Okay, if we zoom in to the North Doppler radar, can anybody see this? And Jack Mauricio, if we're able to clip this real quick. Okay, so near the Great Salt Plains, I've been there a couple times, a little bit east of Alva. Y'all can barely see this little blue line towards the middle. It's very faint, but it just passed through Carmen. It's heading towards Aileen, a little bit northwest of Cleo Springs, still north of 60, east of Waynoka. Okay, this is the actual front itself. And Erica, if you look closely, you can see that from the Great Salt Plains,
that
this
is
big
interesting.
weird little, yeah, so that weird signature on the west side of the radar, as this breeze comes through over the Great Salt Plains, right there, we see a bunch of yellow. what we're seeing are either birds or bats taking off as they feel that breeze. My guess, knowing the Great Salt Plains, it would probably be bats given the time of day. They love to roost in the areas around the Great Salt Plains, but it looks to me like, yeah, the breeze comes through. The bats are like, hey, breeze, let's see where it takes us. And they all kind of flock out at once. We see that oftentimes in the radar near Austin, Texas, but that's a cool little tidbit. Non-meteorological, but oftentimes we see things that are not weather related on radar. We've seen butterflies before, we've seen moths, I've seen cicadas here. So very cool stuff there. One thing to mention too, we do have a storm chaser contest, the Chase With Us contest. More information is on the MyRadar website. I do believe that we have wrapped, and Jason, if you're listening, correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe that we have wrapped entries for that, but we will be taking 2 people next year with us to storm chase with me. So it'll be interesting. We're getting a whole decked out storm chase car. It's going to be wrapped. It's going to have the latest, greatest technology. It'll have a Starlink satellite on top. I'm going to shatter the windshield in giant hail.
And you have one of the most professional storm chasers taking you. Cappucci's a very safe and wonderful storm chaser, knows what he's doing in the field. So that'll be exciting for whoever gets the lucky chance to do that. So
Yep.
sign up for, I guess, our storm chasing contest. I'm not sure if that, I think it's still going on, right? When's the date
Yeah, so
for?
I'm told initially there was a typo way back in the day that said it closed in September. I'm being told right now by Jason, who will actually be coming with us at one point, that the drawing is still open. It closes in December. So there's still time. More details on myradar.com. It lasts until December 14th, which, by the way, is the Geminid meteor shower. So you can enter once a week, get more entries. You, a +1, bring your friend, your foe, your special someone, come storm chase with me. I'll be the awkward third wheel, but we'll have a grand old time storm chasing. And then you can watch the Gemini meteor shower once the thing closes on December 14th. Jason's coming too, which honestly will be a blast. He told me that he had to ask his wife permission to go storm chasing, which, rightfully so. Storm chasing is an inherently slightly dangerous activity, but we're mitigating risk and minimizing it in any way we can. But yeah. Interestingly, my mother really wants to come too. It's funny. She was always terrified. She never had any desire to come storm chasing, but she told me that she does want to come next year. She's already taken time off in May. So we'll see. This past season was arguably one of the most amazing storm chase seasons that we've ever had. It bore resemblance to the 90s when seemingly every event would perform. It was the weirdest thing. Every day would produce, to the point where even days when I'd, wake up late, think I was going to miss something, and I'd show up and there'd just be this massive tornado in front of me. And so next year, I'm intrigued. I think next year will be kind of more like a Mississippi, Alabama, early start to the season. Everything between the water temperatures in the Gulf and the transition to an El Nino neutral state in the springtime, to me, looks like we'll see kind of an early kickoff in March across the Deep South, what we have traditionally called Dixie Alley. But I do think the plains will be active once again, so interesting to see there. Let's take a look and see if we have any severe weather reports right now. And Erica, if you see anything, let me know. I'm not seeing a ton. I am
Yeah, so
noticing
far
there
I'm
has
only
been-
seeing about maybe 3 severe thunderstorm warnings, which earlier when we started streaming, I think there were several. It was a line of severe thunderstorm warnings. So looks like, I don't know, to me, it looks like it's just more of a line of storms right now. Heavy rainfall, rain much needed, like you said earlier, over this area. But so far, just 3 thunderstorm warnings. And one of them is in Kansas. Most of them are in Oklahoma.
Yeah, let's take a look right now at southern Kansas. I'm checking the radar out of Wichita right now. One thing that I do want to caution folks, if we pause right here, so a little bit north of Ponca City, near the Oklahoma-Kansas border, I'm going to put on where the weather alerts are too. And you can see we do have a severe thunderstorm warning now for areas near Arkansas City, Dexter, Winfield. That's where the casino is. I've stayed there many times. The Winfield Casino is plenty of fun. Burden and Dexter. But Arkansas City is about to get some winds, probably gusting upwards of 55, 60 miles an hour, and some quarter to nickel-size hail. But Eric, you notice this kind of curl back right here? We call this the northern bookend vortex. So the northern end of storms kind of curls back a little bit on itself. It acquires counterclockwise rotation. And that's one area where down the road we could potentially see an isolated spin-up tornado. We do see some red against green, so broad diffuse rotation. Nothing is tight yet. I'm noticing too a little bit more in the way of like yellow on the echo tops, which tells me the storm tops are getting higher. And notice there's kind of this gap in the green between this area and then a little bit farther south. So it is still maintaining some cellular characteristics. It is taking on that counterclockwise rotation. Looks like a backwards C, almost like an archer's bow heading towards Arkansas City. The intersection of 66 and 160, or rather 166 and 77 in southern Kansas, a little bit north of Ponca City in Oklahoma. So yeah, this zone right here, we could watch the next, I'd say, 60 to 90 minutes for any potential tornado activities that heads towards like Elk Falls, Oak Valley, Elk City in Kansas, not to be confused with Elk City, Oklahoma, where I've been many times. Although I'm bummed, my favorite Mexican restaurant closed down a couple years ago in Elk City. Loved that place. I used to eat there all the time in 2017, 2018 when I was chasing. But yeah, otherwise we'll take a look at the more solid part of the line and we can see that, you know, it's lined out. It's not particularly impressive looking from a tornado standpoint. It's outflow dominant, winds of 60 miles per hour up and down the line. I am still intrigued by what's going on near like Okarche, Calumet, a little bit northwest of El Reno and Geary. It's a little bit more isolated, a little bit more self-contained, and you know, there is some weak rotation, broad rotation. If we take a look at the radar out of Oklahoma City, I think it's doing a better job of sampling the low levels with those storms. And let me just, for one moment, I'll shut off weather alerts. There's a bug in the app that we're going to have fixed soon, at least here on our version, that requires us to briefly take off weather alerts as we switch between radars. It's only the desktop version, though. It's not a factor at all on the iOS or the Android versions. But yeah, if we take a look, we can see northwest of Oklahoma City, heading towards Kingfisher, which is a pretty decently populous area. We do have this severe thunderstorm warning, winds to about 60 miles an hour and quarter-size hail. This cell's near Geary. Obviously, it's right over Geary right now. There's a bit of a hook on the southern side, west of Calumet. It's going to continue east-northeast. I think the hooking part, the rotation, which is a little bit northeast of Bridgeport right now, will pass very near and north of Calumet and very near Okarche as it approaches or passes over Interstate rather Highway 81. If we look for rotation, we can see there is some red against green here. It's not perfect. And we see, you know, there are a couple of areas of broad rotation, one a little bit east of Watauga over Highway 3 west of Kingfisher, another one northeast of Geary heading towards Okarche. Erica, I don't see any tight rotation yet. It's one of those days where, you know, parameters are there, but the cell structure is just not allowing anything to really take advantage of that. That said, still south of I-40, we are seeing development in southwestern Oklahoma, west of the H.E. Bailey Turnpike, near Mountain Park, Snyder, the Wichita Mountains. Beautiful area down there, by the way. They even have buffaloes out there, and I've been there many times. Some great scenery. But yeah, down by the Wichita Mountains, we're seeing a couple cells form right now. Nothing severe, nothing strong, nothing overly impressive yet. But yeah, it's
we're just kind of on a waiting game. Oh, we said that at the same time. But yeah, you know, I've been I've been watching the radar here, and I think earlier in the day, you know, we were talking about this, and we were kind of on standby because, you know, we have the forecast out. We did the forecast early. They upgraded Western Oklahoma to, and even Oklahoma City, to an enhanced risk. That's at level 3 out of 5 for severe weather, because, you know, the Storm Prediction Center is the one, and they're located in Norman, Oklahoma. They're the ones who issue these outlooks. And so they weren't in that enhanced earlier this morning. They got upgraded to it. So far right now, not seeing too much in terms of tornado activity, and also seeing that they're starting to cancel some of those tornado watches. So if you are under tornado watch, if the line of storms has passed you, I think you're out of the danger zone in terms of that tornado watch, and they have been canceling them. So I think that's going to continue the rest of the night. Once the line of storms pushes through your area, especially if you're northern Oklahoma, northwestern Oklahoma, the threat of severe weather will be pretty much over.
Yeah, I mean, truth be told, my gut is that today will underperform, which is good. We're in a really difficult boat because all the ingredients are there. The parameter space, that overlap of ingredients, could support the development of an isolated, strong tornado. That's if we get discrete, lone, isolated convection, a self-contained thunderstorm that can fully tap into the atmosphere, isn't competing with neighbors, isn't part of a line, isn't bumping into other storms, isn't disrupted by other storms. So it's what we call a conditional risk. The ingredients are there, But in order to realize the full fury of those ingredients, a series of conditions has to be met. And it's unlikely in my mind those conditions will be met. It's sort of like, if you have all the ingredients to bake cupcakes or all the ingredients to make a recipe, but if they're not combined perfectly correctly, it's not going to turn out great. It's like when I cook. I'm a horrible cook. Erica, I adore you. If ever I invite you over for dinner, it's probably in your best interest to not have us
I'd
ever
probably
cooking.
end up cooking for you, and that's totally fine. So we can do that.
That sounds much. I'll provide the wine. Remind me, are you red or white?
I'm a red wine girl. I like the bitter taste of it, and not so much the sweetness.
I can't do anything sweet. I like dry. But in any case, I'll provide the wine, you provide the cooking. But it's like if you have all the ingredients on the table to make something, but you put in a little bit too much flour or a little bit too much sugar, or in my case, one time I realized I was out of ingredients, so I tried subbing things that you couldn't substitute. And yeah, the beautiful thing about where I live, there's a Whole Foods below where I live now. And at my old apartment, there was a pizza place called, oh gosh, what was it called? It started with an M. Oh, well, in any case, if I had someone over and I was trying to make a nice dinner and it didn't turn out great, I'd literally phone downstairs. I'd be like, hey, it's Cappucci. They'd be like, Matthew, did you blank up another meal? I'm like, yes, I'll be down for pizza in 20 minutes. They'd be like, all right, we're making you one now. And they had me covered every time that something went awry. One time Tess was over and I tried making a banana bread cake because my grandmother makes the world's best banana bread cakes. And see, Jack, I don't know if y'all heard that on the stream, but Jack can confirm. And yeah, I tried making homemade frosting, but I was out of powdered sugar. And I was like, I'll just take like brown sugar and milk and mix it. And God, that turned out horrible. So I'd like to think I'm a decent meteorologist. I will never be a chef, ever.
I can believe it. Oh, Cappucci. So I'm seeing right now, actually, there is a tornado warning issued in Kansas, on the northwest side of Kansas City there.
Wow. Okay. So we are manipulating the radar real quick. We are heading towards areas a little bit northwest of Kansas City in the direction of actually Atchison, Kansas, near the Lewis and Clark Village area. And we're going to take a look at a really sensitive radar that is based out of MCI. So it's based out of the airport. I'll turn off weather alerts real quick. We'll put the radar on. And it's for this zone right here. So we're looking at the really sensitive radar near Atchison. I will put on real quick where that tornado warning is. If we want to take this full screen, that would be great. Anyone in the red box in Atchison, Rushville, Lewis and Clark Village, and the Kansas and Missouri border, you want to be below ground if possible, seeking shelter, putting in as many layers between yourself and the outside world as you can. Lowest floor of your home or business and avoiding windows. Remember, if you're in a mobile home, vehicle, outdoors, you want to, if you can, get to a site-built location and protect yourself from flying debris. This is for northeastern Atchison County in northeastern Kansas, southwestern Buchanan County in northwestern Missouri, northwestern Platte County in west central Missouri. Goes until 6:15 local time, so another 22 minutes. The severe thunderstorm capable of producing the tornado is located a little bit west of Atchison. We just lost it. It will be back momentarily. We'll take a look at velocity. And this is one of those not classic supercell environments. It's what we call a kink in the line. So a little bit southwest of, looks like Interstate 59. You see how the green kind of curls back right here? And the red is sort of present right here. I'll zoom in right here. What you're seeing in the green is what we call the rear flank downdraft. So the cold air wraparound on the back side of the circulation is kind of reaching down and sort of tightening that as warm, moist air in the red rushes in to fuel the circulation. It's not a very tight signature right now, but it is what we call a kink in the line. And on days like today, we could have something sort of come together rather quickly. We've seen this rotation over the past couple of scans. It is rather concerning. Right now, it is a little bit southwest of Atchison by a couple of miles, and it likely will pass just south of Atchison. We are getting a new radar scan right now. So again, this is for areas a little bit south of Atchison, Kansas. I think Cummings is in the zone. It's going to pass, I think, a little bit south of the Walmart on the south side of town. So that Walmart is located right here. You can see there really aren't many homes in this particular area. That said, we have the Pineview Golf Course, which is in that zone. Folks along, looks like 262nd Road, folks along Phillips Road, and folks along Rollins Road. You want to be in shelter now, lowest floor of whatever building you're in, and avoiding windows. We're going to switch radars real quick. So again, here's that from the Kansas City radar. I'm going to switch to a different radar. See what's the best radar to look at. You know what? We're actually going to stay with the airport radar. I like it. So yeah, we're taking a look at composite reflectivity. We'll take a look at the base reflectivity, and it's this little hooky thing right here, a little bit south of Atchison. So right where we are, approaching Sherman Road and the Missouri River. So if you're on Sherman Road, near where 73 sort of bends to the east, you want to be in shelter now, lowest floor of whatever building you're in, and avoiding windows. This will pass directly over Walnut Creek in the next 60 seconds. Then Interstate 73. So folks on 73, you have a very limited amount of time left before this potential circulation crosses the road. It will cross about a mile south of Walmart, on Highway 73. Then, fortunately, it passes over, rather rural areas en route towards the Bean Lake area and eventually Highway 45 and 273 on the east side. So on the east side of the Missouri River. One concern I have is that even little rivers like this, it's not super wide, but it's a body of water. There could be a little bit of a reduction in friction, just enough so that the circulation could tighten. But the circulation is right now a little bit south of Atchison, red against green, right here towards the center of your screen. That's where any potential tornado would be. We can take a look at correlation coefficient, which actually we don't have with airport radar, so I'll switch to a different radar and see if we can see any debris. But again, folks, a little bit south of Atchison. If you're in Atchison, you have to be in shelter now, lowest floor of whatever building you're in, and avoiding windows. If you're in a mobile home vehicle or outdoors, you want to be in a site-built location, protecting yourself from flying debris. We will switch to a different radar real quick. I'm going to turn off weather alerts briefly just so we can manipulate the radar, switch to a different radar. Here we go. And actually, I don't love that perspective. We'll take a look at the one a little bit south of Kansas City. This serves the greater Kansas City area. And yeah, from this angle, the radar looks a little different, but you can plainly see this little hooky thing reaching out ahead of time, ahead of the line. That's what we're watching right now for a potential tornado somewhere near Atchison, Kansas. Again, the velocity is rather messy right here, so we're going to mainly stick to using the airport radar. There's nothing clear on correlation coefficient, which shows us the shapes of whatever's in the atmosphere and the fact that we're just not able to see anything really clear there. Let's take a look at velocity once again from the airport radar. It's so much more sensitive. And, Erica, I'm not seeing anything terribly tight, which is good news. That said, anytime there's a tornado warning, we want to watch it very closely. The red against green shows sort of broad, diffuse rotation. Personally, I don't see a tight couplet. I can't see circulation yet.
Yeah, I don't either. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't extend that warning. Usually we could tell, a couple of minutes before, like DeKalb or even cities down the line. We're still going to watch it, but we'll see if they even extend the warning. I think it has another 15 minutes or so until it expires. But definitely one we're watching, and it's really the only tornado warning that we have right now. I also did see that the Storm Prediction Center has also now included Tulsa in a tornado watch through the midnight hour as well. So Tulsa, you weren't in a tornado watch earlier. Now you have been included in a tornado watch, which just means that conditions are favorable for the formation of tornadoes, nothing imminent, as in that tornado warning that we're watching in Kansas.
Yeah, so watch just means conditions are favorable. It means, watch out. It means basically have a plan today at any point throughout the evening to be able to step into a shelter if need be. Nothing is imminent, nothing is occurring yet, but of course, we just want to make sure that we're ready. And folks in Atchison, you should be in your shelters right now, just out of an abundance of caution. I don't see anything overly tight. That said, in this environment, when you have a kink in the line, when you have like a little kind of blip of spin on the leading edge of storms where the air masses kind of chafe against each other, it's very easy to get a quick spinning tornado to form, touch down for a scan or two, in between scans, and lift. And we see that oftentimes. It's really tough to predict, but we know the antecedent conditions are there. We'll pause the radar for a second. And
it looks like they did extend now as a severe thunderstorm warning instead of a tornado warning for the cities down the line. So I think they're going to allow the tornado warning to expire here over the next 15 minutes, but they have warned that entire area for a severe thunderstorm warning.
Gotcha. Come again? Frankly, I don't see a need for one yet. Erica, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we can wait until we get a little bit more activity, but for now, we're just watching that one tornado warning, so we can hold off on that for now, Jack.
I'd like to, if we can, yeah, definitely. For folks at home wondering what's going on, we're coordinating a push alert so we can let folks know that we are live streaming. When we said moments ago that we don't feel the need for a push yet, we're discussing that the broad area isn't quite to the level where we should be tapping everyone on the shoulder, basically saying, hey, watch right now, something big is happening. There are still some isolated spinning storms, but we made the judgment call, Eric and I just now, that the level of how widespread storms are isn't sufficient enough to notify everybody in Oklahoma and everyone in Kansas simultaneously. We are watching that potential. I'm turning off weather alerts briefly once again, but I do want to point out a brand new severe thunderstorm warning in southwestern Oklahoma. And Erica, this is for the cell we were watching earlier on heading towards Carnegie, Fort Cobb, and eventually Binger. That's in southwestern Oklahoma. It's a little supercell. It's adorable, but it's for Washita, Caddo, and Kiowa counties in southwestern Oklahoma. We are not to the H. Bailey Turnpike yet, but it's for this thing right here. And, it kind of has a little pointy backside. It's beginning to hook a little bit. Even, look at the past few scans. It went from rather little to suddenly, look at it now, a lot more purple, more of a kidney bean shape. To me, Erica, that says that we're kind of winding down in terms of how much inhibition there is. We're cutting back some of the limiting factors, and potentially, we might see the event sort of ramp up in the next hour or two. We have to remember, it's only 6 o'clock. We're still technically just coming after peak heating. We have another hour or so before the sun really begins to set across the southern plains. And so, that's one thing that means we might not be plateauing yet in intensity. We might still be on the upswing of things. So folks in Carnegie, and especially Binger and like Lakiba, west of Union City and Hinton, I would say in the next hour to hour and a half, you folks will have to watch a potential supercell that is intensifying right now. Let's take a look at the Echotops feature in the MyRadar app, and we can see that there's green, so it's to about 40,000 feet. It is, intensifying right now. It is trying to strengthen, but it's not to the level yet of being tornadic. If we look, we see the wind field is all red. So it's basically telling me, the storm is growing in height. It's producing hail. There's probably some hail to about quarter size. I don't see anything yet that to me says the wind field, it's sucking in enough air to really have significant rotation. I just don't see that yet. So we're watching, we're waiting, we're keeping tabs on things. I think that we'll keep this stream going for another probably hour as storms move through the Oklahoma City area. If we don't see an influx of tornado warnings, I think we'll call it around then. Of course, even if we're not live streaming, the MyRadar app will be with you every step of the way in terms of providing weather alerts and everything else. I'm seeing a little bit of broad rotation near Okarche with this kind of kink in the line. So one thing, Erica, we talked about the potential for earlier on was that the line itself might have a few little kinks of spin. And near Okarche and another one near Dover, I'm seeing kind of, red against green, and the colors are getting a little bit brighter. That to me says that we could be beginning to see some rotation try to form there. If we take a look on reflectivity, we can see west of Dover, there's kind of that curl back, if you will, that little curlicue, the kink in the line, that northern bookend vortex where you have a little surge of a squall line and the northern end curls back on itself and acquires counterclockwise rotation. We are watching for that potential there. I don't see anything overly tight right now. That said, still out of an abundance of caution, we do want to watch it. There are a couple other severe thunderstorm warnings. There's one, I'll put the weather alerts back on. How do we do it? Right
Yeah,
here.
there's some new ones near that Kansas City area. St. Joseph is now in one. They've expired that tornado warning. So what we were talking about earlier, not really seeing too much of velocity. Not surprised that they did not extend that tornado warning, but still storm to watch. But so far right now, there's about 2 tornado warnings on the northwest side, or I should say severe thunderstorm warnings, not tornado warnings, on the northwest side of Kansas City.
Yeah, and Erica, the signatures for those are kind of messy. It's for these two, green against red. So there is still some broad rotation there, but keyword broad. That's the good news. These little sort of kinks in the line. It's this band of the squall line, and let me put weather alerts back on. And very briefly, I will sort of fill the weather alerts so you can see them. So right here in the yellow, the dark yellow, that's where we have these severe thunderstorm warnings for areas like DeKalb, Lewis and Clark Village. Atchison, you can come up out of your tornado shelters right now. St. Joseph, no need to be in shelter in terms of a tornado shelter, but we will have some strong to severe storms move through in the next little while, likely with winds gusting over 55, maybe 60 miles per hour. And again, I'm seeing very broad rotation. I don't see any tight rotation. Everything to me looks to be very linear, very sort of, demure, very mindful. However,
Yeah.
there is one cell that, Erica, you and I talked about probably an hour ago. It's in southern Kansas. And so I'd like to revisit the cell that is near the Oklahoma-Kansas border. And let me see if I can switch radars real quick. So yeah, we see there's a severe thunderstorm warning in southern Kansas for areas like Winfield, winds to about 60 miles an hour and quarter-size hail. That includes areas like Cowley County. Arkansas City, you guys are under the gun. So is Dexter, Tisdale, and Eureka is almost there. I'm zooming in once again. Burden is in the zone as well. So it's a little bit northeast of Arkansas City, but what I think is noteworthy is this kind of curl back, this kind of northern bookend vortex. I'm going to real quick turn off the filled shape. So we'll still keep the outlines of the severe thunderstorm warning, but we're going to sort of cut back on how much filling we give it. And if I manipulate the radar, I'll pause it for a sec. Let's look at these scans right here. So see how we're kind of bulging forward a little bit near Silverdale, that backward C shape. That's where there's cold air in the backside surging out the storms, and the warm moist air is forced to kind of curve up and around the storms to get inside and nourish the storms. And sometimes when you have little areas of curvature like that, you're able to squeak out a brief counter circulation as the squall kind of curls back on itself and yields a brief tornado. The velocity couplet right now is broad and diffuse. The red against green are kind of spread out. It is stronger at the mid-levels. If we look up in elevation, we can see, much stronger rotation near Tisdale, but it's so high in the sky, nothing's really snaking its way down yet. Now we're looking really far up there. So I don't see any near surface rotation that rises to the level of alarm for me. If we take a look at something called spectrum width 2, this I think is cool. Can y'all see this little thin green line here that's passing right over Tisdale? That's actually the wind shift line. That's the leading edge of the cool air. There's warm air ahead of it, and that's literally where the air masses are chafing against each other. So I think that's cool to see. We use spectrum width sparingly, but we use it to basically show us where the maximum amount of shear is, or changing winds with distance, where that little zone along which the air masses chafe is, and subsequently where that risk of an isolated spin-up tornado is. I don't see any tight rotation right now. I'm not overly concerned, but it's something we are watching. So Erica, I'll turn it back over to you for a moment. I'm not seeing anything that to me says imminent tornado threat. I think that it's worth us watching the southwest side of Oklahoma, especially south and west of Oklahoma City. I'm turning off the alerts for just a moment so I can manipulate the radar. But yeah, we are seeing sort of an uptick in the amount of cellular convection on the west side of Oklahoma City. But otherwise, I'm kind of liking where we're at right now in terms of this event unfolding. I think oftentimes, never to jump the gun, but Erica, you've covered a million events too. And Mauricio, if we want to do a side-by-side once again, Erica, you've covered a million events. I feel like oftentimes in the first hour of an event, we can kind of gut instinct tell if it's going to overachieve, underachieve, if things are going to come together to produce that supercell threat, if they're not. My gut today says that this is more just kind of a line with gusty winds and not much else other than maybe a bit of small hail. I don't think the tornado threat will really manifest the way that we feared. It still could, but my gut is to kind of take the under. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. And, I think that it's some really good news, first of all. Even earlier today when we were, doing the forecast, especially across areas of Kansas City and Missouri, it looked like the threat would have been from now until about sunset. And so really, we've only seen a couple, maybe 2 tornado warnings, no confirmed tornadoes either with any of these tornado warnings. So that is some good news. Still not seeing any tornadic activity over Oklahoma. Of course, you still have about until 10 o'clock. and it only takes one. So we're going to watch this very carefully. Just ingredients are all there, just have not aligned just yet. But, the storms, especially across southwestern Oklahoma, are a little interesting. And I think those are ones to watch, especially because those are some of the ones that could come into the Oklahoma City metro area along I-35. It's a middle of the week Wednesday. So, people who are still out and about, running some errands or anything, you still have about an hour or so until these storms come into the area. But so far, so good in terms of tornadic activity. Still seeing quite a bit of activity in terms of hail. I've seen some hail reports, maybe up to an inch across western Oklahoma, 60-mile-per-hour winds. But watching that very, very closely here over the next several hours. And of course, for those of you that are watching us, tuning in, make sure to share our live stream here all across your platforms, wherever you have it. If you live in Oklahoma, have friends that live in Oklahoma or even Kansas, share our stream with them. Ask your questions in the chat. I'm not seeing too many questions right now. I think we've answered most of them, but if you're curious about what's going on in your city, let's say you're in Oklahoma, or maybe you're down the line like me, I'm in Dallas, and you're wondering what's going to happen there, just ask in the chat. We'll try to answer your questions as best as possible. We're watching the radar here with Cappucci here by my side. And actually somebody on X is asking if we're going to be talking about the tropics, which is something that maybe we can talk a little bit about because, for those of you who have been watching us over the last several weeks, we've been focused in on this active hurricane season. And although right now we're tracking severe weather, we're certainly still tracking the tropics. There's still an area that has chances of development here over the next several days. And it's been one that we've been tracking for about a week or so, very slow. We may get something here over the next several days. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that because somebody was asking about the tropics just now.
Yeah, so I'll throw the area up because, realistically, when the storms aren't storming too much, we might as well talk about the tropics briefly. So Central and Western Caribbean, we have this 40% area to watch, meaning in the next 7 days, there's a 40% chance we get a named storm out of it. Right now, we're seeing something called the CAG, or the Central American Gyre. It's basically this big, sprawling area of broad diffuse vorticity or spin. It's kind of like, upper level low pressure, shower, thunderstorm activity, nothing overly significant. I'll see if I can put satellite on right now. One of my favorite features in the MyRadar app. Oh, that looks beautiful. I've used this feature many times before, but every time I'm struck by how stunning it is.
And it's one of my favorite features in the app for sure.
Oh yeah, it looks so crisp too, and it combines day and night imagery in a way that very few other entities do. But suffice to say, look, right now we see some shower, some thunderstorm activity, some convection in the Central and Western Caribbean. But even notice right here, it's all kind of sheared apart. The low level winds are going one way, the upper level winds are going the other way. It's all being kind of torn apart and not lasting long. So right now, the Western Caribbean is not overly hospitable to tropical development. That said, I think it's worth watching because all it would take, and I'll put on the high def radar, all it would take would be getting some thunderstorm complexes to sort of consolidate our broad spin and tighten it a little bit. And then you have more concentrated, tighter spin. And that's the recipe through which you get a Central American gyre, this big, broad eddy of weak spin to sort of tighten into a named storm. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. The models have backed off a little bit on the propensity for that to occur. I think if it does occur, it would be about 3 to 4 days from now. But, I'll be the first to say, we're very good at forecasting when a Central American gyre will be present. We're very good at forecasting the antecedent conditions, but models really struggle to resolve the individual thunderstorm complexes that would tighten any vorticity into a named storm. It's just too small for any sort of global model, big weather model to do. Our smaller scale models sometimes get it, but that's why it's like playing pin the tail on the donkey. We know there's a donkey, but we can't necessarily find where to place the tail yet. And until that happens, it might never happen. Until it happens, we just can't really offer any more specific insight. So Central American gyre systems are tricky. We just never really know where the spin will come together. And so modeling a storm that doesn't exist is very tricky. But yeah, that's your little jaunt to the tropics. I do want to sort of talk broad structure as to what's going on with our system because, look right now on our composite radar, and we have this whole big line from Iowa, the Corn Belt, down to Abracadabra, Topeka, Kansas City, down towards southern Kansas, Oklahoma, and the meaner storms are in Oklahoma, but even still, we're not seeing anything too crazy. Not a single supercell ahead of the main line. Now, one thing that's been happening is that we have individual supercells trying to form. You see 3 or 4, darker areas of red. They're trying to get going, but every time they do, Erica, they keep getting undercut. The leading edge of cooler, drier air kind of kicks the heels out from underneath them, and they can't really solidify into supercells. So we just get this line that keeps propagating east. And I think that has proven a limiting factor thus far, and will continue to prove a limiting factor. I think that's great news for Kansas City. Kansas City, the odds of any tornado activity are waning fast. Emporia, threat is almost over for you. Wichita, you are done. All clear. No need to worry in Wichita. Winfield, all done. Ponca City, you are 30 minutes from being all done. Even Oklahoma City, I think by 8 o'clock Central Time, the threat will be over in Oklahoma City. So, I'm liking the way things are going. We do have a couple severe thunderstorm warnings up and down the line where you have locally stronger winds and locally greater hail chances to, maybe nickel size. I don't even see any large damaging hail. But, realistically, I think right now we're heading in a good direction. One thing I will say, though, if I can put on the wind stream graphic, this is one of my favorite things. If I can find it, here we go. Let's take a look at the way the winds are heading. If it populates, and it will populate. Sometimes you have to have a little faith. There we go. Ahead of and behind the line. So this is just such a gorgeous visualization. I'm kind of obsessed with it.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, ahead of the line. Which way? Ooh, Jack. Jack, are you able to speak on stream? Can we put you on the spot here? Okay, so for the folks at home, Jack is our editor, and he's brilliant. I'm curious how much meteorology you've picked up. So right now we're taking a look at the wind stream graphic. Ahead of the front, ahead of this big line of thunderstorms, which way are the winds ahead of this front? And the warm, humid air mass ahead of the front, where are the winds coming from? Yeah, okay, there we go. So
And
Jack
you
is
can see them
waving the
there on
bottom
the
right.
side. Yeah.
Oh, there he is. He's right down there. So anyway, so we're now quizzing Jack to see how much meteorology knows. So we know we have this big thunderstorm complex. It's rolling through the plains. Ahead of the thunderstorms, which way are the winds coming from to pump in our warm, humid air? Okay, fine. Jack has declined to answer.
Jack
Anyway.
is a little shy, I think.
Yeah, I'll pretend this is Jack. So anyway, Jack says winds are out of the south. I got this. You've seen it. I got this at the Dollar Tree yesterday. I don't know why I got this at the Dollar Tree.
Cappucci has the most random things in his apartment, by the way. So this is just a normal day for us here at MyRadar. But for you watching Cappucci, you might think it's a little funny, but
I love
we're
how
used
everyone
to it
thinks
by
I'm-
then.
Yeah, everyone thinks I'm so polished and so adult, and someone was telling me the other day that I'm like a kid with adult money, and I love it, which is kind of true. Like I have all these random things in my apartment. I'll do some show and tell in a few minutes because the
But
threat's
a
not
brilliant meteorologist, so
allegedly.
yeah.
I still can't compete with the Sharika Lopez.
And that's his nickname for me, so
I think you're in my phone as Sharika.
I love that. I love my nickname that you've given me.
Every letter has either an accent mark or like the S has a weird little tail thing. I just figure that if I accentuate your entire name, I just have to shout your name every time.
Shout Sharika. But it also it's fun to say Sharika.
It is. No, that's not where it came from. It all came from that Instagram reel that said whoever's name starts with an SH has to buy you chicken tenders.
And then I flew to DC to buy him chicken tenders. So I go through with my promises, Cappucci.
You do. You got to come back for more chicken tenders. I found a really good place. It's called Quinn's in the Corner, and they have really good chicken tenders, but also they sell, like, you can order for your dinner a jumbo pretzel. And this thing, wait, speaking of which, guess what I bought?
And the camera follows him, so everyone's getting a little bit of a tour of your apartment.
My apartment's all messy. Guess what I bought? I hate
And
this
let's see if
camera.
the camera turns around. There we go.
I'm getting whiplash now. Look what they had at the Dollar Tree.
How much was it though?
$1.25. Best investment ever. You can get 6
You're
experiences of joy.
You're gonna become radioactive by like 30 from all the
think I
things that
already
you've
am.
consumed.
Okay, so the
Expired
camera,
apple juice, expired water, a Dollar Tree pretzels, which I guess you'll have to review that for us because that's interesting. I didn't know they
these are the
sold
things
those.
they have at the amusement parks, like super pretzels. Okay, but I don't want my camera to follow me because my apartment's messy. How can I take me off screen for a second, y'all, if you wouldn't mind? I had a Halloween party the other day and I'm still cleaning up from the Halloween party. So someone, Mauricio, whoever, powers that be, take me off screen. Make me go away. Thank you. Okay.
Well, there he goes. Well, I guess in the meantime,
I'm back.
you know, let's see. And I'm going to keep track of any new severe thunderstorm warnings. So far, no tornado warnings. We have several severe thunderstorm warnings that have been issued here. But Cappucci, it looks like that cell in southwestern Oklahoma, they've kind of shrunk the severe thunderstorm warning. It's not looking too healthy there, and it might clip the northwestern side of Oklahoma City. So that's some good news. Oklahoma City, I think you'll still see some activity later on, but most of the storms right now are on the northwestern side.
Yeah, if y'all want to put me side by side with Erica again, that would be great. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm down here. That's because I can't figure out how to move my camera. Sometimes it gets a little bit lost. So
He has one of those cameras that move when he moves. And
if I move? Oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
We're back to where we should be.
yeah, I think I think you have to move very slowly for it to follow you, because then I think it gets confused. Unless there's a ghost in your house and it follows that. But I don't think
Let's see what happens, like if it knows which face is mine. If I put this in front of me, if it will follow that versus me. Okay, so at least it knows I'm a real face. My phone the other day told me that it didn't recognize me as a face. That was so humbling. But anyway, yeah, so we'll take a look at
I
like
think
the
it's
broad
the
structure.
hair that you're getting more hair on your head.
Oh, you think I'm getting more hair in my head? I just started minoxidil. I'm hoping, I might go to Turkey for a hair transplant later this year, or rather next year.
You do not need it. You look fine without it.
I've come to realize you reach a certain age and hair grows everywhere you want it and nowhere, or everywhere you don't want it, nowhere that you do want it. It falls out where you need it and pops up and here, there, and everywhere. Good times. Anyway, before I go off the rails even further, let's take a look at the broad structure real quick of what's going on. So we got southerly winds pumping in the warm, humid air ahead of our front, ahead of our line of storms, and northwesterly winds behind. Even check this out. So it's cooling down quickly in Salina, Russell, Hayes, over towards Oakley and Colby. I love Colby. The Super 8 there is actually really nice, and I've stayed there many times. The family that owns it are super nice. But look, we got flurries up and down the Front Range, Castle Rock, Colorado Springs, up and down 25, even some mixed precip near Goodland, Kansas. And so if you're driving west on I-70, you have a heck of a ride from Kansas City. It's warm, moist, probably around 80 in Kansas City. You drive west to the western part of the state, you're probably in the 40s, seeing some mixed precip and near freezing in Denver. So this front is separating the air masses. In fact, if I can put on temperatures, can I do that? Oh, I'm gonna put on so many layers. Yeah, check that. Oh, that is a sexy plot.
I love that.
That is beautiful. So look at this. We are 74 degrees at MCI right now. We are 80 degrees in Olathe. Is it Olathe or Olathe? I'm going to mess this up. I've been there a million times, Olathe. But look, immediately behind the front, we dropped to 50. So if you drive from, say, Burlington to McPherson, 2 counties over, you go from mid-70s to upper 40s to around 50. That's how sharp of a temperature gradient there is and why we're getting these storms. You know, the cool, dry air kicks up the warm, moist air. You squeeze all that instability or juice out of the air, and you get the storms. So no surprise there. But gosh, this is a lovely... I could just sit here all day in front of this chart. I love it. And you can even see where the convergence, where that boundary is. Even in southern areas like Childress, Texas, look, it's 83 degrees here, 67 in Plainview. The front isn't quite as strong down here. Level in Texas, 72, Clovis, New Mexico, 63. So, yeah, I mean, the front's just about to cross through Lubbock. Y'all can even see the wind shift. That's one thing I love about MyRadar. You can see fronts even if there's no storminess there. So there's a dry front coming near, like Floydada. But yeah, wow, Wichita Falls is at 87 degrees right now. In Dallas, some folks approaching the upper 80s to around 90. So yeah, Will Rogers World Airport, 81 degrees currently. We got these storms moving through. And Erica, I still see no tornado threat with any of these storms, which
Yeah, that's some
makes
great
me
news.
happy. Yeah. I mean,
And
even
I mean, something down the line too, Kansas City, we're not like right now, at least there's no tornado threat, but maybe in about 30 minutes or so, you may be under a severe thunderstorm warning. There's one on the west side. We're just gonna have to watch those storms and see what they do. Very populated area, so I just kind of want to make a mention of that. But other than that, these storms are well to the west of Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City getting close to seeing some activity here, but it just, I guess, depends on the movement. They might just clip the north side of Oklahoma City there, some of these storms.
yeah, I mean, right now we got some storms, and I'll zoom in right now. This one near, I think, Hennessy right now, for Kingfisher, Blaine, and Canadian counties. We're now getting kind of into the North Metro. Canadian County is in a severe thunderstorm warning. We got some winds to about 60 miles an hour. The hail size is increasing to about ping pong ball size. In fact, I was going to go get my show and tell. But yeah, I mean, hail size ping pong ball, that's not going to break any windshields. Don't stop on the highway. Keep driving. You're not going to get any big car dents. Believe me, I've been through more hailstorms than what? What's a good comparison? Anyway, I've been through a lot of hailstorms. Probably
Also on Twitter,
150.
Cappucci, by the way, somebody says you pronounce it Olathe and McPherson.
Olathe and McPherson.
Yeah.
Thank you to whoever commented that. Let me see who commented that.
They're watching us on X, so thank you for sending us that.
Thank you, Gorilla2K. You would like this person. It says, give me Buc-ee's or give me death.
Oh, I'm obsessed with Buc-ee's. I'm a Texan, so that is one of our 5 stops. And I go pretty frequently.
I haven't been to Buc-ee's yet and bought anything. I went once when I was covering a hurricane, and it was the only place open to get gas, but I haven't bought anything because I figured my first Buc-ee's experience needs to be with the Sharika. So
it better be with me, or I will hunt down whoever takes you before me. And nobody's allowed to take Cappucci unless I take him first. Also, Tess is coming with us, so yeah, shout out to Tess.
She is. Tess, for the folks at home, she's one of my closest friends, and now Erica's closest friends too. And she just graduated law school, but passed the bar in the top 1% of people to ever take the bar. So very impressive stuff there.
We're so proud of Tess.
I had a dream I took the bar and got a 5%. And I was told that I could only practice meteorology and never law, which honestly
I think everyone here would love that. I think you belong in meteorology. So I'm super grateful that you're here.
It was either that or become a bus driver. And I still might randomly buy a bus. But, I want a bus. Oh, my show and tell. Can we take my screen full for a second? Or I put just Erica and I side by side for a second? We can get rid of the radar. Nothing much is happening right now. Yeah. Okay, so some cool show and tell. You might remember that I have my 3D hailstones that were scanned by a researcher, Ian G. Manco, who runs the IBHS hail study. But he got me the 3D
and I have one
scans.
behind me too.
Oh, you do? I didn't even notice that. And
It's
for
part of my
anyone
set.
wondering, that cactus that Erica has, we won at an arcade. Yeah, so Erica has the 3D hailstone. That's actual size. That's 4.63 inches in diameter. Between grapefruit and DVD size, the DVD is 4.75 inches in diameter in Hockley County, Texas, back on May 28th. But Formlabs, a really nice 3D scanning company, reached out to me. They said, hey, we saw your TikTok on the hailstones. Can we make you one out of resin? I'm like, sure. So they sent me this gorgeous, it's stunning. It's like, will my camera cooperate?
That is so.
And it's cool. It's like the actual weight and density of a legitimate hailstone. This thing weighed about 1/3 of a pound when it came down, so it was pretty heavy. The thing I love, A, it's clear, but B, notice how, like, I call it the butt end of the hailstone is much rounder, and then the front end is spikier. That's likely because it was suspended like this for a little while. You had air moving upwards, basically blowing any excess raindrops from the butt end of the hailstone to the top end here, and you get the little spikies over here. It would be like if Erica was driving down the road and she stuck her head out the window at 60 miles an hour. She'd have just hair flying, all behind her like this. So if you were a hailstone, your face would be smooth and your hair would be the spikies. So same thing kind of formed here. This is like the hair. This is sort of the face, if you will.
And we can compare them from the ones that we 3D printed and those that Cappucci has, which that is a really cool hailstone. I love the way it looks on camera too.
Oh, it's stunning. And I got to see if I can order more from them or see if they'll ship me a few more, because these are, A, I mean, they're gorgeous, but B, the color is so cool too. It's like this weird blue resin. I wonder if I can take my light and, does it work? Okay, this is not working at all.
It looks like it's glowing, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, good point. Jack said, okay.
Yeah, that looks
Camera,
really
look
cool.
down here. Hey, I'm down here. Gosh, this camera. Do you want Reese's? I have like a million Reese's for my Halloween party.
It's not how we should give out candy next year for Halloween, which I don't know if you have your costume. I know last year, Cappucci, I think you did a really was that cloud costume that you did last year for Halloween? That
Yeah,
aired?
I was a cloud on TV, but this year, obviously, I'm not on TV. I have a costume plan for tomorrow. Wait until y'all see it.
I'm excited. You always come up with the best Halloween costumes, I think. Last year
Are you-
was pretty good, so I hope this year is level up from that.
Did y'all hear that? What Jack said? Jack told me I'm dressed like a clown. We're not bound by the FCC, so I could technically give you the middle finger and we wouldn't have to pay the fine. But I won't be doing that because I am so courteous and respectful on camera. Right, Erica?
Sure. No comment past that.
You know what, Jack? I don't know if y'all at home can hear Jack, but every day he is pressing buttons in the studio, but he's pressing my buttons too. Anyway, let's take a look. Mauricio, you're doing a great job. Very well done. So, let's do a roundup of our severe thunderstorm warnings, if we will. We'll take my radar back again. I'll get rid of the wind streams and the hurricane tracker and temperatures so we can just kind of focus on what's going on, the task at hand.
Yeah, and if you're just now watching us, tuning in, make sure to share this live stream with any of your family or friends that live in Kansas, Oklahoma. We're continuing to watch severe thunderstorm warnings. It's 6:30 p.m. now, Central Time. I know you guys are on the East Coast. There, Cappucci's in DC. I'm currently in Dallas, and we're continuing to track this, but ask your questions in the chat. We would love to give you all the information that you need over the next several hours. If you're curious about what's going to happen down the line, we can also show you future radar. But overall, right now, we're not tracking any tornado warnings, which is some good news. Just several severe thunderstorm warnings, especially popping up across. Now I'm seeing a huge severe thunderstorm warning in northern Oklahoma there, Cappucci.
Yeah, so we have a pretty good sized warning. I'll toggle on the warnings real quick. If we zoom in, I will put the warnings on. So the warnings are on. Let's fill the shapes just so folks can see them a little better. So yeah, on the north side of Stillwater, we now have a pretty hefty severe thunderstorm warning from Ponca City east towards, looks like Pawhuska. So Schindler's in there, Burbank, Caw City, Caw Lake. This whole zone right here has that severe thunderstorm warning. And then we have another one between Perry and Dover, a little bit northeast of Kingfisher. Kingfisher's in the zone too. And so, yeah, we're watching all these storms progress eastwards. Let's take a look. I'm going to get rid of fill shapes, and we're going to go back to the per station radar, and let's dissect each of these storms if we can. For starters, no hooks, no clear-cut areas of rotation. If I press play, you'll be able to see all the storms are moving kind of northeast, and Kingfisher was out of one. Another one's now coming through too. So Kingfisher is likely getting another episode of I say some breezy winds over 40 miles an hour. Hail, probably not with this one, but the hail core is moving a little bit north of Crescent. So if you're between Crescent and Marshall, east of Dover, you're likely seeing some hail to about quarter size, maybe some winds gusting about 60 miles per hour. Covington, you're likely seeing a bit of small hail too, but the worst is about to pass through. Then Perry, Red Rock, Marland, in the direction of Ponca City, y'all are likely seeing winds gusting about 55 to 60 miles per hour as this complex works through. They are windy storms. They're kind of changing out the air masses. And it'll take a second for the radar to catch up. We're asking to load a lot of frames. A lot of people are using MyRadar right now, so the servers are handling a lot of requests, doing a great job refreshing, and we're seeing that right now. So again, all these areas are at risk of winds that are gusty to locally damaging, but you know, it's Oklahoma. We've seen this 18 million times. We'll see it 18 million more. And right now, this kind of looks like a run-of-the-mill severe event. I don't see any significant tornado risk that has manifest yet. There is one thing I want to point out, Erica. If we look right here, in the past few scans, notice there are a few cells that are popping near, Barnsdall, Collinsville, Owasso, north of Tulsa, ahead of the main line. That could be, as dew points increase, we're getting a little bit more instability, a little bit more storm fuel. We're having a little bit more oomph ahead of that main line. If something is to form, if we're to get a supercell ahead of the main line, it's going to be from one of these in northeastern or north central Oklahoma or southeastern Kansas. So the fact that we have a couple little cells popping right now for like Pawhuska, Bartlesville, Nowata, Owasso, Skiatook, these ones, right towards, I'll pause it, these ones right here towards the end of the loop, okay? These are the ones that could evolve into rotating supercells. So until Erica and I are confident that these things are going to sort of peter out, we're going to stay with folks and see what happens as they lift north into like Coffeyville, Independence, Parsons, a little bit west of Pittsburgh, Kansas. All day, the threat has been for any cells that crop up ahead of the main line. The National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center recently put out a discussion saying that there's a decent chance we could see some development ahead of the line in this area here between, say, Oklahoma City and Chanute, Kansas. So these cells are kind of manifesting what we anticipate could happen. We have low-level flow that is increasing a little bit during the next hour or so. As the sun starts to go down, the atmosphere changes over a little bit. The low-level jet stream is going to ramp up a little bit as well, pumping in more moisture. Dew points are between 66 and 69 degrees as well in this zone. We're advecting, scooping north richer low-level moisture. So, if we're going to pop a supercell, it's going to be in this zone here in northeastern Oklahoma. So ultimately, I think it's a waiting game. We have the line of storms. We know the line is there. We'll go into, there's that little bug
Cappucci,
again.
once you get a chance, I think somebody's asking about El Dorado, Kansas, which I think for the most part, it's already pushing to the east of that area.
Yeah, let me just get my bearings real quick. I mean, we can see that whole line of storms in Kansas. El Dorado, Kansas. El Dorado,
And that's on the northeast side of Wichita.
Yeah, so the good news, if we take a look at El Dorado right now, here it is. So El Dorado, the rain is about to wind down. The lightning has pushed east. There might be one or two remnant lightning strikes, but ultimately, El Dorado, you are done. You are good to go. You can come up out of your safe places if you were in your safe place, but you can, you're fine. Lightning threat will last for a little while longer, but ultimately, I think otherwise we're good. Kansas City, we do have some strong to locally severe storms pushing through. There'll be noisy ones. We're getting a decent amount of lightning. We do not have a severe thunderstorm warning in Kansas City proper, but farther north and west, Oskaloosa, and a little bit north of MCI up in St. Joseph, we have some gustier elements of the storms producing winds over 50 miles per hour. But, once again, we'll take a look at the Tulsa radar. It wants me to look at weather alerts. I'm shutting off weather alerts for just a moment. We'll take a look at the Tulsa radar. And yeah, Erica, one thing to note too, for the folks at home, we see how these all kind of have some curvature. They all kind of look like kidney beans. Even though they're not super tall, they're already feeling changing winds with height. So when we see storms shaped like this, that's telling me there's a lot of spin out there. So even as the updrafts are just beginning to go up, they're feeling spin. They're starting to rotate. And so that's why my concern is there that if any of these evolve into supercells before they're gobbled up by the main line, we could be talking that threat of a supercell tornado. The radar's taking a second to load, but yeah, so it's these ones right here near Bartlesville. And back earlier this year, I think it was on May 16th, we had a similar setup where, we had a line coming through, nothing was tornadic, and then near Bartlesville, Oklahoma, near Barnsdall, Oklahoma, one cell was able to acquire supercell characteristics and become tornadic, and that's all it takes. So for folks in green country, it's what northern Oklahoma, northeastern Oklahoma is called. For folks in green country, the risk is there for the next couple hours that we could see an isolated supercell pop. Otherwise, we are continuing to watch these storms as they push north and east, but I don't see too much that is imminent in terms of a tornado threat. And of course, Eric and I are monitoring chats. Do let us know if you have any questions on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Of course, comment. We are happy to engage with you in any way we can, provide thoughts, feedback, specific forecasts, etc.
Yeah, but so far, good news is no tornado warnings, just several severe thunderstorm warnings. And being on standby, we usually like to wait until we see some tornado activity. But I think earlier today we saw maybe so far 2 tornado warnings. So that is very good news.
Yeah, I mean, right now it seems like nothing's popping out of the main line. So even though we have the ingredients, the parameter space, the necessary requirements to get spinning storms, we don't really have any storms blossoming in that environment yet. And subsequently, we really haven't seen any tornado activity yet, which is good news. If something is to form, like we said, once again, it'll be in northeastern Oklahoma or southeastern Kansas with these little renegade cells ahead of the main line in the next hour to 2 hours. But otherwise, I think after probably 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 p.m. Central Time, the threat will mainly be damaging winds with that main line. So, we're going to hold it here for a little while. We'll keep monitoring the chat for additional questions, comments, concerns, but realistically, I think the tornado threat right now is kind of not manifesting at present.
And the good news is once all of this pushes through, I've been in Dallas for a couple of weeks and it's been pretty hot. So now we're finally going to get in on these fall-like temperatures into tomorrow. So it'll feel much better, won't feel as warm and muggy as what it felt like today. It's been very windy in Dallas. Of course, I live in Jacksonville, so coming back home to Texas and seeing the wind, it's something that I still have to get used to, but it's been very windy today. Tomorrow will be better. And in fact, we're even tracking severe weather chances for this weekend, Cappucci. The Storm Prediction Center highlighting day, I think 4 and 5. So that's Saturday and Sunday. And maybe we could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, most definitely. So, Erica, as we know it, it's kind of second season. Anytime that we have temperatures clash, whether it be the spring or to a lesser extent the fall, we tend to get these big bowling ball weather systems. And this is one of those scenarios where this upcoming weekend we'll have another bowling ball come through, pocket of cold air, low pressure, and spin upstairs, and that will nudge into our warm, moist air and kick up more storms. And one thing to note too, this time of year, we have a very strong jet stream, that river winds in the upper atmosphere. Anytime a bowling ball comes through, it kinks the jet stream, it bends it down, and that jet stream dip swoops over Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Texas, the plains, and provides wind energy that we add to the atmosphere, get these storms spinning, get them producing damaging gusts, and that will happen again this weekend. So let's take a look actually, Mauricio, if we can switch to the other window that I have, the Firefox window on Blackmagic 1, we'll take a look at the Storm Prediction Center's website and kind of show folks where that risk area is. So even though we have today's risk, and let me know if we can when it's up. Oh, awesome. You already pulled it up.
Yeah.
Gosh, Mauricio is fast. Yeah, so we already have a day 4 outlook here. So this is for parts of eastern New Mexico, Texas Hill Country, western Texas, the Panhandle, and perhaps the Panhandle of Oklahoma. So Plainview, Clovis, Levelland, Hereford, where I found my favorite hailstone in Hockley County. I think that was in the town of Pettit. And then that spreads east up and down the 35 corridor between, say, Oklahoma City, Childress, Texas. Gosh, where did I chase that one?
Wichita Falls.
Vernon, Texas. Yep, Quanah, Texas. Oh, I have a Wichita Falls. I have a cactus sculpture I got in Quanah. There's a place called, I think, rustic designs, and it's right near the Super 8 and the Best Western, and across from the Sonic. And it's a really cool store where they have like all these metal sculptures. But anyway, I have a cactus sculpture from there up to Oklahoma City, Wichita, and again, Kansas City. So a very similar risk area to today. And this upcoming one looks potentially to be, very similar in terms of timing, overarching environment. So, Erica, like we said, it's second season. We tend to get these this time of year. There is that secondary max. And realistically, for parts of the Deep South, folks have to be in a heightened state of awareness, basically from November all the way to June if you live in like Dixie Alley, so Mississippi, Alabama. But for the plains, it's kind of two seasons. The main springtime one, you get 6 weeks in April, May, where it's just gangbusters, not much, and then kind of a second resurgence in the fall. So yeah, let's go back to our main radar and just kind of do a reset for folks who are tuning in right now. Current time is 6:45 Central Time, 7:45 Eastern. We do have that squall line pushing through a number of severe thunderstorm warnings on the north side of Oklahoma City. Erica, if this thing doesn't fill in soon, Oklahoma City might miss out, which would be great news. But
yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Most of the storms look like they might clip the northwestern side of Oklahoma City. So that'll be a little interesting and to watch what happens here over the next several hours. Tulsa also in that tornado watch. So to also be something to watch here over the next several hours. But I mean, I'm liking what I'm seeing. No tornado warnings, a line of storms. It doesn't look like we're seeing too much in terms of hail reports. Maybe some brief heavy downpours. A lot of lightning though, so maybe some of y'all getting some good lightning shows there out in western Oklahoma. But other than that, I mean, no tornadic activity so far in Oklahoma.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. Like the environment ahead of the line is primed to get rotating storms. We haven't had any storms blossom yet due to a layer of warm air at the mid-levels kind of capping low-level air from rising upwards, and also just not quite enough oomph. Now, the oomph is increasing right now, and we're seeing a little bit more juice as southerly winds ramp up and pump more moisture into the region, which is not great news. And, once again, north of Tulsa, we got a couple little cells beginning to pop up, these little blips on radar that are concerning to me in the context of, they're kind of the appetizers of later storms. If they do blossom, they will become rotating supercells. If the main line catches up to them and gobbles them up, then the threat's over. But if they're able to survive, then, we'll see. So it's kind of a waiting game to see what happens.
Yeah, and I think sunset's occurring right now over the Central Plains. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after that. But I'm just watching some of these severe thunderstorm warnings. So it looks like the one just 10 miles of, let's see, and I'm trying to pull up the information here from the Wichita, Kansas office. I'm seeing some 70-mile-per-hour wind possible. Those are some of the highest ones I've seen, at least with the severe warnings. But other than that, maybe $half sized hail. One of the warnings that is, I think in Oklahoma, might be producing ping pong ball size hail and 70-mile-per-hour winds as well.
Yeah, so I mean, we got some storms out there right now, but Erica, to your point, the sun is setting, which is both good news and not great news. Good news in the sense that we're removing daytime heating. The atmosphere is no longer being cooked. The atmosphere is no longer taking in heat energy. So we have plateaued in terms of how much instability or thunderstorm fuel there is. So good news there. The bad news is that oftentimes when the sun goes down, we have something called atmospheric decoupling, where basically, because we have lesser daytime heating, the air from the surface isn't really rising as much. And so outside of storms, we don't have as much overturning in the lower atmosphere, which means we're not really bugging the jet stream as much. So the jet stream no longer gets these plumes of air from below from interrupting it. And the jet stream can kind of ramp up a little more. It races a little bit faster. It gets going a little bit more powerfully. And we're able to get stronger winds at the mid-levels, which means more shear. I think even if we get more shear, though, the limiting factor today isn't going to be the wind. The wind dynamics are fierce. The wind dynamics are supportive of rotating storms. We know that. The reason we're not getting any tornadoes right now is because we don't have any rotating storms ahead of the main line. The only opportunity for that to occur is trying to get going right now a little bit north of Bartlesville, Oklahoma. We have a few cells that, are beginning to pop up, one over Bartlesville, one a little bit northwest of Tulsa, one near Avant, one near, looks like Ochtola, a little bit north of Nowata, near the Delaware River, Delaware County, Green Country, that whole area. You know, it's a beautiful area up there. They have some mountains up there. I'm always surprised by how hilly the terrain in northern Oklahoma is as you begin to approach the Ozark Plateau. But anyway, we're just going to keep an eye on these storms. These are the storms that if they do something, it will be these storms. So realistically, you know, and they're just appetizers right now. They're not even strong storms. The one near Bartlesville is probably just beginning to produce lightning. I don't think the other ones are tall enough to. In fact, we can take a look at echotops and see just how tall these are. So we're looking at the ones near Bartlesville. The one near Bartlesville just barely has a little bit of green, so it's close to about 30,000 feet. It has a ways to go if it wants to be a supercell. And, you know, if it does gel into a supercell, it could produce a tornado near, you know, Independence, Sycamore, Neodesha, Galesburg, and Kansas, if it does, you know, organize and continue along that trajectory. But its life is limited. These little surges, and I guess now they're bow echoes, but these segments of the squall line are marching east, and once they gobble up these cells, their life is over. It's part of the line, and you kind of wind down that tornado threat. I think it's worth mentioning too, Erica, I'm noticing these cells kind of bowing out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking on the shape of a backward C, which means that there are strong winds kind of kicking in the backside and surging them outwards. So I'd say for folks in, you know, Moline, Granola, Elk Falls, Kansas, winds gusting upwards of 60 miles per hour are possible. That's why we have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for, looks like, part of Cowley County and Chautauqua counties. Elk County as well. That warning goes in effect for another 25 minutes as those storms blow through. That's in Kansas. And then, you know, we are seeing those storms kind of stay rather mean on the east side of Ponca City. So Pawhuska is going to see strong winds to about 60 miles per hour soon. So will Shidler. So both those areas, you know, you got the bow echoes, you got those little segments kind of surging out, those backward seas. They're gusting outwards, and we're likely seeing winds gusting upwards of probably 60 miles per hour, but that's the main concern right now with those.
Oh, Cappucci. So we have an interesting question here. How is the fire from yesterday in Oklahoma doing? So one of the other big weather stories, I think, was there's a major fire, I think, in Oklahoma. And so somebody's just curious about what is happening there. And I'm not really too sure. I think maybe somewhere in Western Oklahoma, that could have been where that fire was. And that's the good thing about our app too. We can track it in our app as well.
Yeah, so just to show folks, give folks some bearing, it'll take the radar a second to load. That fire is unfortunately right near Cushing. So Cushing, Drumright, a little bit south of Yale. It's east of 35, so north of the Turner Turnpike in Cushing and Yale. I've been there before. They have a Brahms there. But let's take a look at our wildfire layer if we can. It's one of my favorite layers because it also shows us where hotspots are, and we'll turn that feature on. And we're not seeing any significant. Okay, so actually I stand corrected. Yeah, that wildfire is still burning, and you can see the outline of the fire. And you know, the red ones right here, that's where we've detected. And this is so cool because we're not even seeing, like, you know, the powers that be drop a wildfire pin, but our app can see where satellites are detecting a wildfire, which is so cool. But yeah, southeast of Oilton, we're seeing a little bit of activity continuing. My suspicion is that the red on the outside is where the wildfire kind of burnt out to yesterday. And I think it's settled back a little bit, especially as we've had higher dew point air, much more moisture work in today. Yesterday was dry. We've had warm air, moist air advection, so scooping in moisture since. And I think that's why we probably cut back on how big the fire's getting today. But I do see a few, you know, yellows, a few oranges. That tells me there are still some hot spots burning there southeast of Oilton. So, you know, it's a little bit east of the Cimarron River. It's not in the town of Oilton yet. There were some mandatory evacuations with that fire, but you know, it's still something we are watching. There are a couple other hot spots too. Nothing overly big. The wildfire risk is coming down, which is good. We also have another little fire south of Pawhuska, a little bit north of Winona. That one is not threatening structures right now. I do love this feature in the app though. You know, you can see all these hot spots. Look how many hotspots there are, and some of these are agricultural burns too, but in northeastern Arkansas, and a lot of these are new too. It's been so dry across the South lately. Drought is becoming more entrenched. But the good news is, at last, Oklahoma is getting some rain, which we need. I'll turn back off the wildfire layers, and you're seeing all these wildfires, but yeah, so you're seeing a lot of wildfires right there. Not all huge ones. Some are just little hot spots, but we'll put back on the radar, and we'll put the per station radar on. Actually, yeah, we'll leave it per station. And we'll turn off we'll keep it as is. And, Erica, like we said, we are watching these cells near Bartlesville, Alacheta, no, Achaleta. I'm sorry, I mispronounced that. Northwest of Tulsa, near Osage, a little bit west of Avant, Ramona, Barnsdall, once again. And so as these cells pop up, notice how they popped up all in the past hour. So the trend is upwards. The trend is not our friend there. We'll see if these evolve into rotating supercells before they get absorbed by the main line. But ultimately right now, I think the main threat is with only those. I don't really see any other immediate concerns. We don't even have any other severe thunderstorm warnings with those cells. Ultimately, Kansas City is seeing gusty winds right now. The area is not under a severe thunderstorm warning. Lawrence, Kansas is. East of Topeka, you're seeing some gusty winds. Likely gusts around 55, maybe close to 60 miles per hour. And then northern Oklahoma, obviously, these winds could be up to about 60 miles per hour at times. But, Erica, one thing I'm seeing within the line, we're not even seeing any real tornado spin up in that line, no QLCS tornadoes, because I think the line is continuing to kind of undercut the inflow that you'd need, the warm, moist air coming into storms to get any tornado formation. So I really don't think even in the main line, we're going to see much in the way of tornado activity, which again, great news there.
Yeah, and it's been about 45 minutes since we last seen a tornado warning anywhere in the country. So that is some very good news. And yeah, I'm seeing some people comment about the fires there. Somebody saying there's a fire, that's the one that you were showing in the MyRadar app, Pasca, and there's structures involved. And some people hoping for some rain over that area where that fire in Cushing, Oklahoma is burning. So, for those that are watching us from Oklahoma, I know it's a huge concern. It is one of those other weather stories that we're tracking in Oklahoma. But other than that, we were talking about this earlier. We have not seen a tornado warning over the past 45 minutes, and we hope it stays that way. Tulsa, although you are under a tornado watch until the 10 o'clock hour, that's one of the areas that we're watching very closely. Now, if you're on the backside of this line of storms, you are in the clear. We're not anticipating any more severe weather threat, and you guys can enjoy a nice cool down. I know it's been pretty warm across much of the Central Plains. So, but we were talking about this earlier. We do have even more threats of severe weather heading into the weekend. So we're going to keep updating y'all on the MyRadar app. You'll see notifications. If you have our app, a push notification sent to you this weekend from our meteorologist, Matthew Cappucci, and all across social media. So some of these areas, if you're watching us from Oklahoma, don't let your guard down to at least heading into the weekend. We still have more chances of severe weather, and we're going to continue to track it. We also have, somebody was asking this earlier, things that we're tracking in the tropics. So although today, no tornado threat, we're still in a very much so active season in terms of hurricane season. For those of you who have watched our previous streams, we were tracking hurricanes, now severe weather. We're kind of in that transition period of severe weather threats. It's still tropical season, and winter is around the corner as well. So we're going to continue to track it and keep y'all safe and informed pretty much throughout the year. I feel like, it's very rare when we have quiet periods of weather here at MyRadar that we're not tracking anything. Even internationally, we tend to track storms as well. So, we've been pretty busy here over the last several weeks, and I know a lot of y'all definitely want to break from this very active year in terms of severe weather, hurricane season, all sorts of things. And Cappucci, I know you've had a very active severe weather season just a couple of months ago, and we're starting to see a little bit more of that activity across the plains for the end of the year.
I chased 13 tornadoes this year, and one really nice thing we can do too is, anytime I'm out in the field storm chasing, same with Jordan Hall, we can use the storm chaser layer in the MyRadar app. It is a really cool layer where you can toggle on, and I'll briefly show y'all how to do it real quick. We want to take the radar full. I may not turn it on just so as to not interrupt the radar, but if we take the radar layer full, that would be great. And real quick down here, I'll show you. There's a little stack of cards down bottom right. When you're using the mobile app, it's down bottom towards the middle, and you scroll down until you see storm chasers, which is, oh dear, I'm going to get in trouble for this, aren't I? Erica, help me here.
It might not be in this version of the app because this is on.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
I made a mistake. This is the in-house version of the app.
Yeah.
So we just for our visuals, okay, I'm not going crazy. You can put us back on screen now. Anyway.
It's on our mobile apps. If you have the iPhone version or Android version, you can toggle on our storm chasers layer, which will give you just live feed of storm chasers out in the field. I've used it quite a bit when Cappucci's out in the field. He's always getting some great coverage. Even our storm chaser, Jordan Hall, who they get great coverage. So there it is. Yeah, video and storm chasers layer. You can toggle that on in the MyRadar app. And actually, let's see if we have
my screen
any.
is so messy.
That would be great if we can show that. We do have a couple of chasers out in northwestern Oklahoma, and I would love to see their footage. So I don't know if one of y'all in the studio who has the app can toggle on that layer for us and then kind of play through each storm chaser, because there's quite a few, and I really would love to show what's going on in the field, which we haven't yet. So I'm pretty curious, and I'm seeing it here on my phone, Cappucci. I don't know if you're seeing anything there, but I'm seeing some great clouds out in the distance from Hunter, who's in Guthrie, Oklahoma. Ooh, a great lightning show from Chris Hall right now, live streaming. I don't know if we could do that one instead, Jack, from Chris Hall there. So yeah, look at that image. Yeah, so quite a few chasers there. Yeah, so if you zoom in, Jack, you'll see another one pop up there, and I think some of them are very close together. So I don't know. I would love to pull up Chris Hall's, and that's in Oklahoma City. Zoom into Oklahoma City, and it should be on the northern side of Oklahoma City there. Yeah, so zoom into that one streamer that's in Guthrie, Oklahoma, and I think two of them will pop up. Or maybe not. We could just play that one. I don't know where I don't know why it's not showing up in the app, but yeah, Cappucci, look at that. It's pretty much sunset there, so it's getting dark, but you can see how tall those clouds are there.
Yeah, so what folks are looking at right now is the anvil, so the kind of upper levels of a severe thunderstorm. The cool thing is all the air goes up and kind of billows upwards until it hits the tropopause, the ceiling of the lower atmosphere. By the way, Jack, I just sent you push text, but the ceiling of the lower atmosphere, and you're able to see that overhang, if you will, where all the thunderstorms are kind of basically hitting the, that ceiling. The air spreads outwards, and you get that really cool view right there. You see some lightning flashing from time to time.
I wish we could get Chris Hall's stream. He's seeing some great lightning strikes, a lot of activity, and it looks like that line of storms is really close to where he is. I don't know if we could maybe refresh the app, whoever is driving the app, and see if we can pull up Chris Hall's stream, because I'm seeing it on my phone, but not seeing it in that. Yeah.
Where's Freddie McKinney? I'm checking Freddie's too. Oh, Freddie is at a Phillips 66. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hunter Hurley is in Guthrie.
Yeah, there's several chases in Guthrie, and I'm seeing some great footage. I think Chris Hall's north of Cimarron City in Oklahoma, just on the south side of Crescent. There it is. So, yeah, go north of Cimarron City, Mauricio, and no, you were right there. So go down and to the west. And it should be that stream. I really want to pull that up. Look at that, Cappucci. Look at all that.
So we're taking a live look right now near Crescent and Cimarron City. That's with, you said, Chris Hall. So that same area has a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Kingfisher, Noble, Logan, and Payne counties. That's all in central Oklahoma, north of OKC. And you're seeing lightning flashes illuminate some scary-looking clouds. That's not a wall cloud, so no rotation in that, but you're seeing kind of a shelf. So the leading edge of cool air exhaust is causing that shelf you see in the foreground towards the top of the camera shot, and then behind it, all wind and hail about to come through. Crescent and Mulhall are about to see a pretty good deal of both wind and perhaps some hail too. There's a warning in effect for ping pong ball sized hail. So that's interesting to see there. You know, interestingly, the Jack Lightning emoji. Thanks. Interestingly, Mulhall back on May 3rd, 1999. Everyone forgets about Mulhall. So that same day that Moore got their first horrible tornado on May 3rd, 99, the high risk event, Mulhall got a storm that produced a tornado with a wind field about 4 miles wide. It's not believed that the actual funnel itself was 4 miles wide, but some of it was, you know, inflow, rear flank downdraft, cool air wraparound, warm air rushing in. But still, it speeds over 80, almost 90 miles an hour. So like the swath of, I think it was like 80 to 90 mile an hour winds reached out about 4-ish miles. So a huge area was impacted by winds that were obviously very severe. And then, of course, the tornado was several miles wide, too. Officially, the widest tornado, the actual funnel itself, the edge of tornadic winds, was El Reno, Oklahoma, back on May 31st, 2013, which was about 2.6 miles wide. But, yeah. We also have another... Oh, thank you, Eric. I was reading the comment. But, yes, now we're seeing some bigger hail on the side, on the north side of Crescent. There might be some wet ping pong balls, maybe a localized golf ball in there, heading towards Mulhall. So if folks are driving north on 35, I'd say get off in Guthrie, get off into Mulhall, maybe a little before Mulhall. I'd do Guthrie, stop at a gas station there. If you're driving south, I'd stop in Tonkawa. There's some casinos there. But otherwise, I wouldn't be driving in between just because it's just kind of a messy, you know, long night. We are
Yeah, but
waiting
I
to
mean
see.
that's awesome footage. Somebody, Derek Hall, who's been commenting quite a bit. Yeah, this is amazing. Chris Hall does some remarkable work there chasing, and I always see him every time we do some of these severe live streams. He gets some of the best footage.
Oh, Chris
But
Hall
yeah,
is
really
very
yeah, I'm right now. That's the only thing I'm seeing, at least in terms of Freddie McKinney's live stream is going in and out. But Chris Hall, he's the one to watch. If you have the app, you can toggle on the video and storm chasers layer in that little button that looks like a stack of cards, and you will be able to watch this with us if you want to see that on your phone. And I actually have it pulled up here on my phone, and I could see it there on your screen.
Central Plains and Midwest regions. Wow,
And I'm watching some of these storms on the northern side of Tulsa. Nothing's warned yet.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I am seeing some special weather statements for those though. But other than that, not too much activity. It looks like it is now those southwestern Oklahoma storms. Looks like they are being included in that line of storms. So not seeing too much activity down in southwestern Oklahoma right now.
Yeah, and for folks who are joining in right now, let's we just sent out a push notification, so we are welcoming in some new followers. Let's kind of do a big reset. Yeah, so give me a countdown as to when you send that. Let me turn on winds and I'll turn on high def. Awesome. So we're going to give it about 15, 20 seconds. Yeah, we'll give it about 15, 20 seconds. Folks are getting their push notifications right now. We're letting everyone know that we are tracking storms. We'll be tracking storms until the threat wanes in the Kansas City and Oklahoma City areas. For now, however, we are tracking severe storms. I'm meteorologist Matthew Cappucci, joined alongside meteorologist Erica Lopez, who is that way. Did I get the point right? Yes, you're over there. So, hey there, Erica. Good to see you. You know, we're tracking severe weather this evening. The good news, if I give you a high five, will it work?
We could try. Okay. Yeah, it kind of works.
My camera keeps moving. Anyway, so folks who are tuning in right now, thank you so much for joining us. We've been tracking severe weather all night long. We are here with you. We are here for you. You know, piece of good news. Even though we have severe thunderstorm watches, tornado watches up and down from the Corn Belt down to the Southern Plains, Dallas, Oklahoma City, Kansas City, all under the gun tonight for severe weather. You know, Erica, we haven't seen any tornadoes yet, which is good news. Let's take my radar real quick and do kind of a big push, if you will. We'll take the radar screen full, show folks exactly what's going on. And we're taking a look at the per station radar feature. So we are starting, if we'll take that screen full, please, Mauricio, that would be great. Just the radar so everyone can see at home. So we'll take that full and show folks what's going on. Awesome. So ahead of the storms, we have winds out of the south pumping in warmth and humidity behind them, cool winds out of the northwest. That clash is brewing storms right now anywhere from near west of Oklahoma City up towards southern Kansas. Wichita is on the backside, no more storms there. Kansas City is seeing storms imminently if they haven't already. Topeka just got the storms, but Kansas City, it's going to be a rough night of travel for you these next few hours. But look, they continue all the way up towards Des Moines. So this big squall line has intermittent areas where the winds are more strong. Up and down the entire squall, we're seeing winds gusting 40 plus miles per hour. But in Oklahoma City, we're lucky right now. Off to the north, Stillwater, Ponca City, Arkansas City, over in the direction of Pawhuska, all severe thunderstorm warnings with gusts over 60 miles per hour possible. But Eric and I have been discussing that the main tornado threat will come with any cells that form ahead of the main line. And we're seeing that begin right now north of Tulsa. These cells have popped up in the past little while. We're going to take off the wind layer. We're going to take off the warnings layer briefly, and we're going to put on per station radar. So we're going to switch to our high definition per station radar and see that there are these brand new cells that are popping, already spinning near Bartlesville, west of Sperry, west of Owasso, west of Tulsa. These ones right now are the ones that could be producing tornadoes in the next hour to 2 hours. It all depends on if they stay out ahead of the main line or if they get absorbed by the main line. But realistically, right now, nothing's doing much. However, Erica, we've discussed the environment is ripe ahead of the main line for rotating storms. And if these cells that are cropping up right now, as moisture increases, as oomph increases, if these cells can sustain themselves and become supercells, these are the ones that produce tornadoes. No warnings yet for any of those cells. Barnsdall, you're not under the gun. Dewey, you're getting heavy rain. Tyro, Wan, Coffeyville, Kansas, y'all are getting some lightning from time to time with these initial cells, but I haven't seen anything sort of congeal into anything tornadic yet. So if we can get these cells stay ahead of the main line, they will likely be tornadic. However, it will depend on if they can mature before they get absorbed. That's ultimately it. Even right now, we're seeing some of the anvils, the clouds from these cells begin to merge with anvils ahead of the squall line. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if these cells are able to do it. We'll know probably in the next 30 minutes, or if these cells will not be able to. But for now, Kansas City, you are not getting severe weather. You are getting winds gusting 40 to 50 miles per hour. Oklahoma City is in the south side of storms. So Erica, all attention right now is focused on these storms in northeastern Oklahoma. Will they do it? Will they not? We hope they don't. We hope they take a while to get their act together. We hope they don't organize. And ultimately, we hope that they get eaten by the main line before they can do something. But, we sent out a push notification. We want to let folks know that we are watching this nonstop. We are with them every step of the way. And we will be with them until that threat finishes for significant tornadoes, which we won't know for the next little while. But it's something we are watching very closely.
Yeah, and I am seeing that the Storm Prediction Center is actually highlighting with the mesoscale discussion that area that we were talking about. So from Bartlesville to, I think that's Coffeyville, Coffeyville, Pittsburgh, Fredonia. That's the southeastern side of Kansas, and even a small area in Missouri. So what you were just talking about, they're also highlighting that area for the potential of tornadoes. I think mostly a wind threat as well. So we're going to be watching that here. And again, that tornado, there is a tornado watch issued through the 10 o'clock hour. So in about 3 hours for that area.
Yeah, let's actually put the tornado watches on the MyRadar app. So we'll zoom out a little bit, and just to show folks exactly what's going on in terms of who has a watch, who doesn't, I'm going to darken the watches a little bit. So we have weather alerts. We can change the opacity and make it so you can see them. And there we go. Anyone in the yellow, that is a tornado watch. A watch means conditions are favorable for severe weather, meaning large hail or damaging winds, in this case, mostly damaging winds, but that risk of an isolated tornado. Farther west, check this out. On the backside, on the west side of the dry line where there's drier air, we have fire weather watches. We have red flag warnings in the pink right here. That's a red flag warning. And then over here, we even have winter weather advisories in the purple, where there could be a bit of snow, even some snow falling right now near Colorado Springs, and Goodland, Kansas has some mixing. But for now, all attention is focused on this line of storms. You can see these severe thunderstorm warnings in darker yellow right there. I'll get rid of the watch real quick, just so we can better see the warnings. So we'll get rid of the tornado watch and severe thunderstorm watch. And again, well, the warning should still be there. There we go. I'm getting rid of the watch. Oh, did I discover a new bug? I did. Interesting. Okay, well, anyway, I'll submit a bug report tomorrow. But yes, suffice to say, anyone in the little teeny tough to see orange boxes, those are severe thunderstorm warnings. And then we're seeing some yellow boxes pop up. That's where the Weather Service is issuing something called a special weather statement. It's basically saying, hey, it's not warning level yet, but something's cropping up. And Erica, we're seeing even the past few scans, some organizing cells near Barnsdall, Oklahoma. Barnsdall is not going to get a tornado, but we remember back in May, there was one cell that popped ahead of a line of storms in Barnsdall that became tornadic. It was the only real game in town that day, but it produced an EF4 tornado on a day when everything else was swallowed by the main line. So that's why I say, on a day like today, we have lots of shear, changing winds with height ahead of the line of storms, and we're going to watch for the next hour or so to see if any of these cells wind up perking up and becoming, potentially concerning, potentially tornadic, because they are ahead of that line. And, if they can avoid being eaten by the line, which we'll know soon, then they could eventually produce tornadoes. So we're watching this closely. Otherwise, no tornado warnings. Everything else is, for the most part, outflow dominant, so exhaling more air than it's ingesting. That's why the line is producing damaging winds, but realistically, I don't see any marked tornado threat at this point. So things are behaving currently. But
I like that way you said it, behaving. Some people are in the comments I'm seeing on YouTube. Emma's saying there's a face to legend. So I guess she's never seen your face before. I think mostly because maybe she was tuning into those hurricane streams and we could hardly see you in those. So there's Cappucci's face. And if you want to see more of his face, we send out daily push videos in the app, and you can see him in our app. Every single day, we try to cover, weather not just in the US, but everywhere around the world. So you're most likely going to see Cappucci in our app. If you haven't seen him before, that's a little surprising. And somebody's saying they saw my tweet with you in it. So that's how they saw your face.
we should use that. That was such a good screen grab of us. We should take a nice one for the Christmas card. Actually, Mauricio, could you put Eric and I side by side for just a sec? Okay, no, smile. Ready? Okay, perfect. I'll take a screen grab later. Awesome. Anyway, we can take the radar back up. But it's so funny to be doing a live stream. Thank you, Mauricio. It's so funny to be doing a live stream and not have stuff, whizzing past my head, and not have to worry about whether my car is going to flood or if anything's going to impale me. It's nice.
It's a very rare live stream when Cappucci's in studio. He's usually out in the field, and I guess a day like today didn't really warrant it as much, but if there's going to be more of a potential for storms, or Cappucci would have been out in the field.
When things are bad, we're streaming. When things are really bad, I'm in the field. And so this is kind of like that intermediate area where, nothing's flying at me, and hopefully it stays that way unless something very bad happens in DC. But if we're streaming, that is always, of course, a time when we should be watching for severe weather. Really, we're even seeing a number of severe thunderstorm warnings expire. So even, northern Oklahoma, we don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings other than the one near Guthrie right now, where it's mainly a hail producer. Let's take a look, actually, if we can. We'll take that radar mostly full and just put me in a little teeny box. I want to go back to the Oklahoma City radar, if we can, real quick, and take a look at the cell. Here's another little feature. Let me go back and get rid of the watches for just a second. Yeah, so near Guthrie and Mulhall, if we look right here, we are seeing some pretty good size hail a little bit north of Mulhall. You'll see Mulhall populate on the map in just a moment. It's right here. Oh no, where's Mulhall? Okay, well anyway, it's between Guthrie and Marshall, and all that pink you see right there, we're likely seeing hail to about $half size. And even notice, in the past few scans, we're seeing pink and a little bit more purple approaching Interstate 35 from the west. So if you're north of Guthrie, I'd say get off the highway near Mulhall. Orlando's about to get it. Perry's about to get it. You're about to get some big hail to about, maybe ping pong ball size, perhaps a little bit bigger. maybe half dollar size. And the Weather Service does say this is a considerable threat, so ping pong ball size hail, but also the risk of winds to about 60, 70 miles per hour. If we zoom out, we're seeing some brighter colors, this brighter orange and brighter green. That to me tells me there are some stronger winds in there. So if we put back on the weather alerts, you can see this little teeny area that's rather tough to see. I'll try to darken it momentarily, but you'll be able to see that we do have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect. Right there, that polygon includes parts of 35. So 35 is going to be a rough ride south of Perry and north of Guthrie. That's for parts of Kingfisher County as well as Logan County. Noble and Payne counties are in that zone as well. So again, we are watching for potential severe weather there. Otherwise, we've no longer filled the shapes. I'm really intrigued by these cells in northeastern Oklahoma that are cropping up. We have a couple, Erica, between Bartlesville and Tulsa. These ones, to me, are concerning. And even look at this. If we take a look at the mid-levels, we see now we have two supercells that are beginning to organize. So like I said, if something does become tornadic, it's going to be in northeastern Oklahoma near Bartlesville. And, these aren't perfect supercells yet. They're still getting a little bit taller. They're taking a while to get their act together. But we're waiting to see if they are swallowed by the main line or if they can stay alone, discrete, and isolated ahead of it. I do think that their life cycle probably won't last more than another 2 hours or so, hour or two. So we'll hold and see what happens. But yeah, it's these cells in northeastern Oklahoma that I think are what has my attention right now, if anything can become alone, discrete, or isolated. So we are watching that closely. Erica, any severe weather reports that you've seen thus far or anything kind of noteworthy stand out to you?
Not right now. I mean, some people are saying that in Oklahoma. And thanks for y'all that are commenting that are in Oklahoma. You're exactly who we want this information to get out to. But some of y'all in Guthrie, Oklahoma, I am seeing, not a drop of rain yet, but you will get it. Some of y'all complaining that it's bone dry in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is interesting. I think you might get rain here over the next hour or two, but most of the storms are on the northwestern side of Oklahoma. And I'm just watching the comments here. Keep talking, share our information, share if you're in Oklahoma and you have people that love to watch live streams, share our app. Not only the app, if you don't have it, download it. It's a free download. You can track the storms with us right here live. And if you have any questions on the app, we can show y'all live in our stream on how to use it. We were showing the fire tracker earlier. So, a big thing happening in Oklahoma right now. But other than that, so far with these storms, Cappucci, I'm not seeing any, at least reports, but some of these storms could produce 70-mile-per-hour winds and ping pong ball sized hail. And it does look like we only have about 3 severe thunderstorm warnings right now.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I think is worth noting is that the parameter space is high, meaning we have the ingredients supportive of big severe weather. We have changing winds with height. We have, an increasing jet stream right now, which means we're adding more wind energy to the atmosphere. But the limiting factor all day has been that we just didn't have storms to really take advantage of that ahead of the main line. Lines can't spin. Lines are just walls of wind. Occasionally you get little spin ups. We're not really seeing that right now because the storms are falling behind the front. And so there's not really enough warm air flowing into the storms at the low levels to really get any tornado threat anyway right now. The exception will be if we get any cells ahead of the main line that can really take advantage of the full dynamics of the atmosphere. I think that's kind of key right now in that, we're waiting to see if these storms near Bartlesville, near Tulsa sprout, but it all comes down to storm mode. If we get a supercell, we can spin that thing and we can get a tornado. But if we don't, then we're not really going to get that out of the main line. And that's a tricky thing. If the parameter space, the ingredients are there, but storms don't take advantage, we don't see that much out of them. We see some wind, we don't see too much hail, but it wouldn't take much to go from a run-of-the-mill windy squall to suddenly a strong tornado if the storm can really sprout, or if a storm can sprout ahead of that main line, which we're seeing in this area right here, north of really north of Tulsa. These are the only ones that realistically, to me, shout, watch out for potential tornado threat down the road. And even still, that threat will be extant so long as we're able to keep these cells ahead of the main line. Even look at this right now. I'll zoom in real quick near Barnsdall. near Avant. These cells aren't severe yet. They're not that tall, they're not that big, and they aren't sucking in enough air to be tornadic. But look, they're all spinning like tops. They all have hook echoes already. So these cells north of Tulsa are spinning robustly. It's going to be a waiting game. Does the line gobble them up and that's it? Or do they have time to mature before the line comes in? We just don't know yet. So ultimately, that's kind of what we're waiting on. We are here out of an abundance of caution. The main squall line is producing winds to 60 miles per hour. Y'all know that. You've seen winds before. It's Oklahoma. It's Kansas.
Yeah, Cappucci, someone's asking about Kansas City in all caps multiple times. So I guess we could.
If they're asking in all caps, can I shout?
I think so. They're shouting. They're concerned about what's happening there.
Kansas City, relax. There are no severe thunderstorm warnings yet for Kansas City. That said, hang on. Yeah, that said, there are some strong winds coming through in the next little while with gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour.
Which is some good news. Yeah, I think they're just concerned,
Right.
These storms on the west side of Kansas City, I am seeing some heavy rain, but the good news is there is not a severe thunderstorm warning for Kansas City. It'll just be heavy rain and gusty winds for the next 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this right here, we see there'll be a couple little cells that pop ahead of the line there. I don't think those will be tornadic. Realistically, here comes a squall. It's not severe right now, winds to about 50 miles an hour in the Kansas City area. So yeah, it'll come through, it'll breeze through. You'll notice a change of wind. You'll notice the air temperatures actually fall rather quickly. You're in the 70s right now in Kansas City. You'll fall through the 40s afterwards. So, it's going to be a chilly night tonight in Kansas City. But all told, Erica, the squall line has been mostly well behaved today, which is good. We want it to stay that way. I think the biggest thing is just going to be watching southeast Kansas as these storms right here, these ones near Bartlesville and Coffeesville, waft north. That's going to be how we get a tornado if we do get one. So just kind of a waiting game right now. Let's see what happens if any of these congeal. But, Erica, realistically, I'm going to put on real quick our spectrum width tool to tell us where the leading edge of the cool air is. So let's see your spectrum width. When you get to be my age, you can't see as well. Come on, spectrum width. Okay, so yeah, right here, I think this near Pawhuska is the leading edge of the cool air. I think that's also the leading edge of the wind shift line. So realistically, once that boundary catches up to the rest of these storms, I think that's kind of it for the tornado threat. So that's why I think realistically we'll know in the next 30 minutes if anything's going to manifest or be really bad, or if we're kind of dodging a bullet here. I am noticing this cell near Bartlesville is growing. It's getting bigger. It's getting taller. It's trying to become a supercell. It's sort of the one that we're waiting on to see if it does anything. That said, it's not crazy tall right now. I'm taking a look at the radar, and I don't see anything on my end that makes me think it's super tall or fully mature yet. So,
Mauricio, I think was saying that he has some video to show us. So I don't know if you want to pull that up in the app.
Mauricio, let's see.
We'll see if we can get that video up from one of our storm chasers, I think, in the app. Again, you could track storms with our storm chasers layer. And Cappucci, you've appeared many times in that layer. So when he's out in the field, you can track him regardless if we're live or not. He is live in the app, but you can see several chasers there. I'm not seeing any in Tulsa, which I wish we could have something there just to see how the storms are behaving. But Freddie McKinney, I think, was seeing a great lightning show earlier. I don't know if maybe his camera's frozen or maybe not, maybe just not as much activity, which is interesting, I guess. If he is in, I think that's Chris Hall. I think he's north of Stillwater. Yeah, so he's in a severe thunderstorm warning, but I think the way he's facing the lightning is on the eastern and western side of him. So interesting, not seeing a lot of lightning activity right in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, squall lines tend to have the biggest electric fields, and oftentimes you get, big anvil crawlers that can run the length of squall lines.
Hmm.
One thing I want to do, if we can take a look real quick, we have some decent sized hail crossing I-35 near Perry and near Orlando. It's now up to about golf ball size. So this is the biggest hail we've seen all day. I'm going to take the radar and drag it a little bit west, and it'll take a second to catch up because it's like me. It's old. It's a little bit slow, but that's just because it's in high demand right now. A lot of folks are checking the radar. But if we look right here, we see in purple, this is the hail core crossing Interstate 35, and we're looking high in the storm, and we can see a lot of pink and even some purple here west of Stillwater. So Stillwater is going to miss out, but the town of Orlando, which is north of Guthrie, and which is where that hail core is right now, is likely seeing hail to about, I'd say, golf ball size. So Erica, this is kind of the meanest storm there is right now. Golf ball size hail and winds to about 60, 70 miles per hour for Orlando, and a new severe thunderstorm warning that the Weather Service is labeling as considerable for southeastern Noble County, north central Logan County, northwestern Payne County, and southeastern Garfield County in northern Oklahoma. We can see, it's crossing the highway right now, and realistically, believe me, it's not a nice night to be on I-35, not at all. It will cross the highway soon, but there are more storms behind it. Look over towards, Crescent and Cimarron City and Dover. So this line is going to sort of push through and take its sweet time pushing through. So 35 will be a rough ride for a while. But for now, all attention is focused on this one cell near Bartlesville, Oklahoma, that is continuing to mature, is continuing to grow. And these are the ones that, if anything does become tornadic, it'll be these ones as they move into southeastern Kansas. So we're watching these like a hawk. Otherwise, not a ton of severe weather. We only have 3 severe thunderstorm warnings. So I think we'll keep it going for the next 30 minutes and just watch the Bartlesville cell. But, Erica, the outflow boundary is already near Pawhuska. So it has, it doesn't even have 30 minutes before the boundary catches up to it. So
Yeah.
right now, we're literally watching one cell. Everything else is going to be hail and wind. The only cell that I think has my attention is this one right here, because this little blue line near Pawhuska that you can barely see, this little blue line, let me put on velocity. Yeah, so this
Somebody's
green
asking
line
about Parsons, Kansas. So in that zone where we're watching those
Yeah.
storms pop up. So Parsons is on the southeastern side of Kansas.
Yeah, so
It's-
Parsons,
yeah.
we're watching those two. There will be a couple that's kind of that same zone where there are a couple cells sprouting, but the main line's coming in so fast that realistically, I think the tornado threat in Parsons will probably only last for about 90 more minutes. In Bartlesville, look, so on the right side of the screen here, you see in red, that's a storm over Bartlesville, but that green line towards the middle, that's the leading edge of exhaust, of cooler air exiting the squall line. Once that catches up to the storm in Bartlesville, it's kind of over. And so that's why I say that tornado threat in Bartlesville will hinge entirely on, if the outflow boundary catches up and sort of knocks the heels out from underneath these storms. It's definitely going to be a loud storm in Bartlesville. It's storming out there, but these cells, once the main line catches up, the tornado threat really wanes. So here's Parsons. You're about to get these appetizer cells, these discrete cells. For the person who asked about Parsons, it really is entirely a wait and see. Will these storms go tornadic? Will they not? It depends on how much time they have before the main line catches up. And really, that's why we're just kind of sitting here and basically talking amongst ourselves as we wait and watch. One thing I'll do real quick, Erica, I'm going to step off camera for a second. So Mauricio, if we could kill my camera just for a shot, or just for a sec. I'm going to, because the camera's going to try to move and I don't want people to see how messy my apartment is. Kill me. Get rid of me. I can't leave. No. Okay. There.
Okay, there you go. I could see him in the background there. I see your candy, but nobody can see it. Only I can. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of questions here. Oklahoma City and North Texas. So for you guys that are North, I'm also Zachary. I'm also in North Texas. I'm in Dallas. So let's pull up WSI and talk about the future radar here. I think it's a little bit behind, so I'm actually going to put it to where in relation to where the storms are right now. And so this is happening now. So this future radar over the next several hours, Oklahoma City, I think you will get some rain here over the next hour or two. I don't think you're completely out of the clear in terms of rain, but I think in terms of possible severe storms, it might clip the northern side of Oklahoma City, but I still think you still have a chance of seeing some rain later down the line later on. And in North Texas, especially where I am, and I've been watching it too, I think it's mostly an overnight threat, starting as early as I think even midnight on the western side of Dallas Fort Worth, and then eventually as we get into between 3 to 6 a.m., that's when the line of storms will push through North Texas. And then as we get into the early morning, most of the activities out of the way as early as 10 o'clock in the morning, and then really a cool down for North Texas, which I'm excited about. I want to feel fall. It's been pretty hot here over the last several weeks. And so that's something that for those that are chatting there, I see y'all's questions. I hope that answers your questions. And if you're watching us and you're maybe watching us in the app and you want to ask your questions, join the conversation. We're streaming on YouTube, we're streaming on Facebook, we're even on X. We've had some questions coming in from our X platform there. So make sure to ask your question in the chat. We're going to try to answer them, and we're continuing to monitor the situation. Right now, we're not seeing too much in the way of tornado warnings, but I am seeing a concerning warning, and that's happening right now. And let me get some of the latest. That's the one that Cappucci was talking about earlier that is associated with, and I'm seeing it here on my screen, 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts and golf ball size hail potentially. And so that was a storm that we were talking about earlier. And I don't know if we can pull up radar for you guys in the back. And looks like Cappucci is back. But yeah, he's moving around the radar. And that's really one of the storms that we're primarily concerned with. It's not a tornado warning. It's just a storm that's associated with large hail and those 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts as well. And I'm not seeing any more questions there in the chat, but Cappucci, I don't know. I think your mic's muted if you're speaking, but
Oh, sorry about that. I was yammering all to myself, and I was like, huh, no one can hear me. Anyway, yeah, so that zone right there with all the pink is crossing the highway, crossing Interstate 35 right now. So I think there is some pretty good-sized hail in there, likely to about golf ball size. And golf ball size is the point at which you might start seeing some nicks in your windshield. You might start seeing some dents to your car. Just for folks at home know what golf ball size hail looks like, if we can take my shot briefly full, this is an example of a golf ball size stone that I captured last year in Hockley County, Texas, or actually this year, back on May 28th. And so, they come in all shapes and sizes. It has a diameter of golf balls. Some is more round, others are a little bit flatter, but then golf ball size in one dimension. So they can still, oh no, there's a hailstorm. They can still certainly leave a mark and cause some damage. But yeah, this is roughly the point at which we start seeing damage to vehicles. And for folks along I-35, you see that hail core move in right there near Perry. It is directly over the highway right now, just south of Perry, with strong winds now near Orlando, Oklahoma. So again, a severe thunderstorm warning is in effect. There have been reports now of golf ball size hail in Perry, Orlando as well. Emergency management just relayed that. And so a severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for southeastern Noble, north central Logan, northwestern Payne, and southeastern Garfield counties. That goes until 8 o'clock Central Time. It is now labeled a destructive storm by the National Weather Service, so 80-mile-per-hour winds and golf ball size hail possible. We're expecting that risk of a few power outages too. So if you're in Morrison, you're next in line. Morrison, north of Glencoe, eventually maybe Pawnee if it holds together. I'm not sold that it will, but suffice to say, we are watching that threat pretty closely. Otherwise, I think we are probably going to call it quits right around the top of the hour. It looks to me like the cells in southeastern Kansas and northeastern Oklahoma are beginning to, or will soon be undercut by the squall line and by the outflow boundary. So that is a piece of good news. So right now, it looks to me like that tornado threat is minimal. All I'm seeing that really is alarming right now is the same one that Erica mentioned. So I'll echo her sentiment and state that, big hail to about golf ball size is nothing to shake a stick at. Or it's, what's the expression? Is something to shake a stick at?
I have
Someone
no
help me
idea
out
what
here.
that expression is.
Someone has to have heard this, so just shake a stick at. Right?
We'll see if anybody in the comments knows what that is,
Take a
because I don't
stick.
think I'm so bad with sayings. I haven't heard half of sayings, so I'm probably the worst person to ask that question. So if anybody in the comments knows what he's talking about, please help us out.
Webcam, I'm up here. Damn it.
That webcam
All day long,
has-
my webcam. Hello, hey, I'm up here. This thing, it keeps focusing down.
I think you move too fast for this webcam, and he can't keep up. So,
Oh,
or
gosh,
it.
okay. At risk. Thank you for getting me off screen promptly. There we go. Okay, good.
We're just gonna have to.
Let's
There
slowly,
it goes. There it goes.
slowly get the webcam going up before I get myself in trouble. All right, here we go. Oh, good times. Erica, how are you doing? It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you finally. We got the camera on the
No,
face now.
I've been on a Erica withdrawal.
I know we haven't seen each other in person in, I think, 2 months now. It's been a while.
It's been since Disney, when did we go to Disney? That was August, right?
September, I think.
September.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been, I guess November's, what, in 2 days? We're going on 2 months. It's been too long. I need my Erica time, my Sharika time.
Yeah, we're better in person, I think.
Oh, we're so much fun. Yeah, Erica's fun.
Somebody said something not to shake a stick at.
Okay, something not to shake a stick at. So wait,
I think that's the term.
what?
Clap on
So-
YouTube is telling us that that's what that is.
So do we shake a stick if something is significant, or do we not shake a stick because we're not trying to entice it? You know what I wonder? You've heard, the nursery rhyme, hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, blah, blah, blah.
No.
Hey diddle diddle, the cat
I'm
and
like the
fiddle,
worst
the
person
cat
to
jumped
ask
over the
this
moon,
to.
the little dog laughs and seeks it. Is that a bad word? The what? Is that a bad word? I never knew that.
I didn't think it was either, but Jack
I
is
am so
telling
sorry.
us that.
Oh. I never knew that. Interesting. I was always told that that was like a nursery rhyme about the cow jumping over the moon.
I've never heard that before. So,
Me
but
neither.
obviously,
Gosh.
it probably is just
Huh.
you, Jack. He's telling
Interesting.
us
Well,
a word we're not going to repeat here on the live stream. That we're
interesting.
not.
So
Yeah.
So nursery rhymes, nothing ages well. Not me, not nursery rhymes. Erica ages well.
See, somebody else on X says they've heard that terminology before. The something not to shake a stick at. Because
Okay.
and then somebody's saying it means either serious or not as serious.
Okay, so the stick shaking then right now is at a minimum because it's not, even the cells in northeastern Oklahoma, they're beginning to feel the influence of the outflow boundary. So the tornado threat is waning quickly. So I think we're going to call it quits in about 5 more minutes time as we head approaching the 8 o'clock Central Time hour. Obviously there are some strong storms that are passing north of Oklahoma City. I think Oklahoma City might get lucky and miss out on the worst because it looks to me, Erica, that most are passing a little bit north of the city. I know the line is going to back build south a little bit later. What's your gut, Erica? Do you think it'll fully solidify before getting to Oklahoma City? I think it will, but
Yeah, I think
don't
Oklahoma
it'll
City,
pack
you
a
have it
punch.
mostly on the northern end. I think they might get some rain, but it's very close. You might get clipped by the whole line of storms, but you might see some maybe spurts of rain here and there, maybe some lightning. I am seeing some storms on the western side of Oklahoma City, so those might come into that area. But if you're hoping for rain, I think you'll get a little bit more of it. So somebody asking, what's peak tornado season for North Texas, North Dallas, South Oklahoma? and somebody's saying that they're getting in on rain there. So I guess we could answer that question. Cappucci is, what's peak tornado season for North Dallas and South Oklahoma?
Peak tornado season? Well, we kind of get two tornado seasons. Obviously, the spring months are kind of a period when everyone holds their breath. As you know, you live there. I've been there year after year after year. Culturally, people seem to almost dread May because any given day in May is the anniversary of something bad that's happened before. It's like a 6-week period where every day the atmosphere is kind of locking and loading and it's stressful. The seasons are battling it out, and so you get big storms, the jet streams nearby, and you sculpt them into tornado producers. Then the jet stream retreats north, and it kind of leaves us alone into the summer months, and then suddenly we have a secondary, less significant clash of the air masses come as we transition from from summer to winter during the autumn months, and so late October and especially November tends to be a time when we get more thunderstorms, and as the jet stream lurks closer, we can sculpt those into spinning storms. So, yeah.
I hope that answers the question there that was in the chat, but I'm not seeing any more right now. So get your last minute questions in. We have about another, 5 minutes until the stream comes down. So, and if you happen to come up with a question later on, you can follow us on X. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Cappucci and I both have our personal social medias there that you can follow us as well. I'm always answering questions on social media. We're seeing everything. So Cappucci's pretty good at it too. So he can answer any weather question at any time of day.
And Erica, one thing I want to point out too, and sort of to justify why we're not going to stay on through midnight, 1 a.m. There are only 4 or 5 severe thunderstorm warnings, no tornado warnings, which is good. I think once the storms pass east of 35, they'll lose their temper a little bit, or rather lose their force a little bit. But let's take a look at the radar once again out of Tulsa. These cells that initially looked to be the ones that could produce tornadoes are now getting so close to the main line that they're all kind of merging, they're all kind of getting messy, and they're feeling the cool air exiting this main line. I can tell right here, it's tough for you folks at home to see, but if I put on velocity, we'll be able to see this line right here. Erica, you can see that too. This line is the outflow boundary exiting the squall line. This is already colliding with our storms ahead of the line, which means they're about to feel cold air. They're about to feel the gasps, the breaths, the exhales of the main line. And so, when that comes through, I think the window of opportunity for any tornado genesis is closing. And subsequently, I just really don't think we're going to see much tornado activity out of those appetizer cells either. So we weren't sure if we'd get supercells to form. A couple try to form. They're congealing right now, and the main line's about to gobble them up. Kansas City has seen some severe weather move through too. And indeed, there are some severe storms in Kansas City. Let's take a look real quick at those because I want to make sure that our folks in Kansas City aren't left out. You're getting winds to about 50, maybe 60 miles per hour as this squall comes through. Kansas City, it's over downtown right now. Overland Park, Kansas City, Belton, Lee Summit, next in line, Blue Springs, a rough ride on Highway 13 on 291, and especially Interstate 70 to the east and west of Kansas City. The farther west you go, temperatures drop fast. And temperatures are dropping in the Kansas City area. We'll put on temperatures and just show you how strong this front is and why we're getting the severe weather. Look at that. It is 78 in Lee Summit and 62 in Leavenworth as those storms pass through. We are 64 in Topeka and already in the 50s west of Junction and 40s along Highway 81. So a much cooler air mass is building in. If we go down, let's see if we can take the Tulsa radar one more time. And let's see if we have the resolution to do this. Do we? Yeah, so, ultimately, these cells ahead of the main line, the tornado risk is decreasing fast. And the only potentially destructive storm is the one that's crossing I-35 right now and bringing hail near Perry, Oklahoma. Emergency management just reported golf ball hail and winds to about 80. So you can see that here, and even here, the outflow boundary is coming through, so that's the storm's exhaling air. They are back building. Oklahoma City will see some storminess, but probably nothing overly crazy. Granted, there will be some severe weather, but yeah, Erica, I'm pleased to say that, and we don't want to call it too early, but I do think that the appetizer storms that could have gone tornadic probably won't, at least in a widespread context. I think it goes down to what we were saying earlier. Sometimes the parameter space, the set of ingredients, is enough that you could, if conditions produce a supercell, get a mean tornado. That could have happened today. The parameters were there. But as we communicated in our video earlier on, we strive to communicate on social media, the limiting factor was that we didn't have supercells form far enough ahead of the main line because of two things. A, we had too much warm air at the mid-levels that kind of capped the lower atmosphere. And B, we just didn't have enough oomph to get storms really blossoming ahead of the line. So, all good news. I think folks should remain vigilant tonight, should stay tuned to any potential additional warnings. But for now, I think it's safe to call it for the evening. An enormous thank you to both Mauricio and Jack, who have been tasked with operating this live stream, with running it. Erica, as always, it is a joy to see you every single time. I love these. It's like FaceTiming a friend for 3 hours. So thank you to Erica as well. Anything to add before we, what was that, Jack? Oh yeah, Jack and Mauricio are down bottom right. Who's who? Jack, is that you on the left? Or is that Mauricio? Mauricio's in the chair. I think this was also Mauricio's first
First
in the
time.
driver's seat live stream.
Yeah.
Mauricio, you crushed it. You always do. We hired Mauricio back in, when was it? August, because I was away in Europe when we hired him. We came back, and within a week, it was like he'd been working here for 5-10 years. He's so incredibly talented, and we are privileged to work with him.
And he definitely came in at a busy time for us when we had back-to-back, tropical coverage. Now we're doing severe storm coverage. So Mauricio, you've seen a little bit of what it's like to work in the weather industry. And we are so thankful that you're here with us. We're so thankful for Jack for keeping this live stream and, helping him train up for this moment that we, definitely need it. And for anybody who's watching us as well, thank you for sticking through with us. If you were here the entire, I don't know how long we've been streaming, I think 3 hours or so. Thank you for watching. Make sure to share our information, share our social media platforms, get people to follow us so they can be weather informed and stay ahead of the storm. And that's what we're here for. And we always love informing and keeping you guys safe and informed. So thank you to those that have been commenting and sharing our information, and for those who have been sticking with us through it. And I'm excited to be here, Cappucci as well, finally being in studio and being able to talk to him during a stream. Usually this is a very rare opportunity to get with Cappucci in his studio because he's usually out in the field chasing. So hopefully next time you see us, it won't be something too crazy. We want to plan for more live streams, not necessarily just severe weather every time, but a little bit more of something a little bit more fun. So hopefully you'll see us in more of that context. But of course, we're going to be here to keep you all safe and informed for any severe weather. It's still a tropical season, and we're getting in that late season severe weather as well.
Indeed. So with that, we will call it quits. Thank you all to everyone who tuned in. Erica, always great to see you. I miss you. Come visit soon. And yeah, with that, we'll bid everyone farewell. Thank you again so much, and hopefully we'll see you back here tomorrow in the MyRadar app for future weather updates. Night, y'all.
Yeah, have a great night, y'all.
We're getting inside of it! We're getting inside the tornado right now, right here! We are in the tornado!
In the tornado right here.
Tornado! We deploy
Power lines are coming down. Stop it right here. Stop it right here.
We gotta back up!
Back it up. Back it up.
From a scientific standpoint, from a communication standpoint, this is a master class in meteorology. All the air is rushing in. We're basically in a vacuum right now. All the air is rushing into this area. Can't
The general disclaimer, obviously, I'm very excited from a scientific standpoint, but I do, and we all are very well aware of the human impact of this. So even though it looks cool online, it looks cool to, oh, here's a bird. It looks cool to sort of see all this science in action. We do want folks to know that getting to this point was dangerous. The first out of the eye, I mean, look at all the damage just on this little stretch of highway.
flooding farther to my south, but when you have that and an acute tornado risk in one of the biggest, most densely populated areas of the country at night, not a great recipe for travel. The good news, though, it's Sunday, commute not quite as bad as it
Stop it right here. Stop right here.
We gotta back up!
Back it up. Back it up.
Oh, roof's going! Roof's gone right now! Iowa, Hurricane Idala making landfall right
scientific standpoint, from a communication standpoint, this is a master class in meteorology. All the air is rushing in. We're basically in a vacuum right now. All the air is rushing into this area. Can't
the general disclaimer, obviously I'm very excited from a scientific standpoint, but I do, and we all are very well aware of the human impact of this. So even though it looks cool online, it looks cool to, oh, there's a bird. It looks cool to sort of see all this science in action. We do want folks to know that getting to this point was dangerous. The first out of the eye, I mean, look at all the damage just on this little stretch of highway.